bitch ass up, nigga. Fuck you to anyone that claim that they got me. When my heart was low, it turned to comma. But take about my gallery off in the spurs. The truth is everything we need, can we agree with that? The group is over without being on the album. I'm back and ready, Karen had to bring it out me. I love to hate, but these days I'ma keep it classy. Niggas I made, I love to see them boys surpass me. Play with the way we keep.
Oh my god, hello everybody. Welcome to Hot on the Presses.
Oh my god, I'm crawling out of a fucking hole.
We're hot.
And on the presses.
Isn't that fucking crazy that we're still here?
And we were in a hole.
We were stuck in a hole. It was the Old Testament. God opened the ground and swallowed us whole, and he attempted to make us into worms, but we crawled out instead. Now we're only half worms, so it makes recording a little awkward, but we're getting through it for you guys.
That's kind of raw, though. I would love to be like... It's kind of like the worst possible inversion of Medusa. Instead of being half snake, instead of having snakes for hair, you have worms for hair. Except it's the other way around. So instead, you are kind of the hair of a worm. Like you're just like it's like a worm tar.
Oh, I'm imagining like the SpongeBob Alaskan bullworm, but with like a really fabulous wig on.
Oh my god! I feel like that happened in the episode? Probably.
I feel like it didn't.
I truthfully was imagining truth coming out of her well to shame mankind. Which is us coming out of our just hole in the ground that explains why we were gone for so long.
Yeah.
Just ready to bash everybody's heads in with our excellent takes.
Yeah, if you're wondering why God condemned us, it was because Paula Wallace called upon him, and everybody owes her a favor, so he had to seal me away into my dorm room for 10 weeks.
Only God has more real estate than Paula Wallace, so...
This is true.
I got a hot job lifting boxes at a liquor store, so basically my arms are like fucking, I don't know, ball pythons now. They're just gigantic.
You have the like JoJo Part 3 tire shoulders.
Yes, I look like Cars. I think that's Part 1, but you know.
That's Part 2. You're in the middle.
Okay, I know some guys.
Some of the dudes.
I've seen guys before.
Yeah. I had a very busy quarter meeting celebrities and
and speaking to them too.
Yeah. I was doing red carpet coverage.
If you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, I'm sure Megan's presence in your inbox has been absolutely constant and very much appreciated.
Yeah, there was one night where so for context, Film Fest is like the week before finals start kicking off. So normally when you're student media, what you do is you do that recording session and then you edit it within like 24 hours so that you have a quick turnaround. But radio is not like a news source or anything.
Radio is so different.
Yeah, so we were like, okay, we have time. And part of why we wanted the time was so that I could reach out to my volunteers and be like, hey, does anybody want to help editing? And I waited too long and finals happened. So nobody wanted to help. So I, at one point, just hunkered my ass down in O House on a Saturday night from like 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. and edited all of these videos in the dark. Like
in the dark, bro.
Yep. Like edited all of them through, made an intro, made an outro, scheduled them on the YouTube channel, made descriptions, made titles, made a playlist. I scheduled and edited 12 videos in one night.
Bro.
And I just sent a screenshot to the Slack for radio and I said, promote this on Instagram, I'm done.
I'm imagining you like swaddled in a blanket with bags under your eyes the size of like you could take home your Macy's department store haul in the bags under your eyes, like shattered red tired lines into your eyeballs. Like, I don't know, you've got like 5 o'clock shadow going and like 3 buns atop your head. I like your fingers have wasted away into shreds as you continue typing. I'm sorry about this.
Every moment that I proceed, a premiere has sucked more of my soul out of my body. So, you know, it's truly, you cannot separate art from artist because the artist has siphoned away their soul into the Adobe Creative Cloud.
The artist has literally glued her physical body to the Mac. and is slowly churning her organs into it.
Exactly.
Was meeting Janelle Monáe worth it?
Oh my god, yeah, she was brilliant.
Radiant.
She brought her mom on the red carpet, which was really sweet.
Baller. Absolute baller.
She was taking pictures with her mom, and then I like interviewed her, and radio was consistently like the very last one in the press line, which was great because I could piss off publicists and ask too many questions, and it wouldn't affect anyone but me.
You have to finagle. It's your God-given
I
right.
did in fact finagle, and I finagled hard on the Miles Teller one because his manager came up to me and was like, he has time for one question. And I was like, mm-hmm. So I started asking him a question, and then I asked him another one, and she jabs me in the arm like 8 times in a row.
Bodily?
With an acrylic nail. Yeah, just like stabbing my arm. And I just smile. And I keep asking the question. And Miles like looks at the finger and then looks at me and just smiles. And I was like, yeah, you know what's up.
I'm amending my mental image of you in like your editing cave, and you're just like bleeding severely from the right shoulder.
Yeah, I just have like a massive welting bruise on my arm. Oh my god. Yeah, so that was like the big event. And other than that, I just was being me and doing a lot of interviews and lining all those up. I have 2 upcoming in January with Weyes Guevara and Jay Wood, and I'm trying to see if Mr. Glitterer is available.
Ooh.
So some nice chunky solid ones coming up.
The fact that we didn't get to discuss the Weyes Guevara album on this podcast is a federal felony. That shit is bonkers, and we both love it so dearly.
If you missed the slideshow.
Yes, speaking of which, the slideshow that I just kind of did, like I just kind of this just manifested in my hands. I'm not sure where it came from.
Sophie like messaged me and was like, "Hey, do you want to add anything to this like Google like slides thing?" And I was like, "No, I approve. Like you're good." And then like 2 days later, she comes to me and she's like, "I have a 27-minute video." And I was like, "What? What do you mean?"
It manifested. But if it literally just like appeared in my house like Quadeca and like rattled my floorboards and things.
He didn't mean to haunt you.
He didn't mean to haunt me. But if you haven't seen that yet, you should go check it out. It's got all our takes on all the shit that we didn't get to because we were busy in our respective holes.
Albums that still had the time to rock my shit.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm home now, and as I had mentioned, my brother is at home as well, and Ethan and I we say basically just like cell division, where we're like the same person but just different genders, and a couple years apart. And one of those things is that we're both very devoted to music, and we are also kind of debate lords at heart. And so Ethan comes to me yesterday, and I'm listening to the album that Sophie assigned to me for New For You. I'm not going to spoil what it is yet, but I'm listening to this album, and he's like, "Oh, really?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I don't really know, like, if it's my thing." And he was like, "Oh, yeah, like, I don't know. It's not really my thing. I wouldn't call myself a hip-hop liker." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "Well, I don't know if I'm equipped to call myself a fan." And I said, "What do you mean? You like hip-hop, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, but I feel like I don't like foundational hip-hop, so I can't call myself a fan." And I was like, "What do you mean?" So we had like this whole debate about it, and the thesis that it came down to was that he feels like to be a fan of a genre implies some level of knowledge about it, and I just think that being a fan means like enjoying it glibly.
I'm on your side, and I definitely think your brother's older than you, right?
He's 23, yeah.
Okay. Oh shit! Fuck! Don't like that. I am 23. I was about to call him out for being a boomer, and I can't even do that because
he's a boomer at heart, certainly.
So here, okay, I have 2 responses to this. One, this is you mentally gatekeeping yourself.
I
like
literally
you
said that exact thing. I said
Yeah.
I've never heard of anybody gatekeeping themselves from something before, and here you are.
Well, I have I not said that I do that near constantly about like random shit that gets like critical attention.
I guess, but like not in the sense that like you already enjoy that thing, but you refuse to say that you do. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that is pretty advanced. Yeah, that's some next level Inception shit. I'm not sure
Yeah.
where to even begin to psychologically evaluate that. But culturally speaking, that's just gatekeeping yourself. Like
Yeah.
it's an unwillingness to put your foot forward and say, yeah, I like this thing. Like
Yeah.
regardless of like we know there's no such thing as a true fan. I'm sure if asked, your brother would say, no, of course that's stupid. Like a true fan doesn't exist. But then
Mhm.
like what the hell else are you doing? Like you're just phrasing the exact same sentiment differently.
Mhm.
Two, in the sense of like background knowledge and understanding is required to be a fan of X genre. I think every genre is different in that respect.
Mm.
Like obviously there are genres with a higher barrier of entry than others. I think that's
Mhm.
fair to say, right? Like I think jazz and metal and experimental and
I don't even know if I would agree with that because I've had a very non-traditional like path with music,
oh yeah,
and
me
to
too.
this day I haven't listened to like any of the foundational stuff in a lot of genres, and I would still consider myself a fan of them.
Yeah, same. That's where I was going.
Oh, okay.
So I think that yes, there's like there's some genres that require, if not like historical contextualization, because I don't think you ever need that.
Mhm.
Then you at least require sonic contextualization. The Hedgehog. Um, like to get into metal, you probably have to already like be interested in things that are like harsh sonically, you know? Like you're not just gonna
Yeah.
jump into a gore grind record if you're a Doja Cat fan and you're
Mhm.
like, this is the best shit I've ever heard. Like that's not gonna happen. I think with rap specifically, people get very caught up on the classics like Tupac, Biggie, fucking, I don't know, Wu-Tang Clan. I'll
Mhm.
be straight up and say I've listened to some Biggie. I haven't heard any of the rest of that. And I strongly consider myself a hip hop head because
Yeah.
hip hop is very different now than the way it was in the 90s. In the
Yeah.
90s, it was very like stupid well, not stupid because Griselda makes this comparison. In the 90s, rap was kind of like pro wrestling. Does you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
there's
like playing heels and stuff like that.
yeah, active storylines that you're following and like huge larger than life personalities clashing and like competing to be like the biggest dick on the mic, you know?
Mhm.
And now it's the most popular genre of music that there is, and any 14-year-old with an internet connection can sample and create an instrumental and like mumble some shit into autotune and wow, yeah, that's hip hop. Like
Mhm.
okay, so the idea I'm smiling. This is a fun hypothetical. Thank you for asking me this.
Yeah.
Uh the the idea that within rap specifically you have to like have listened to the classics or like know the classics is one antithetical to the way that like 95% of like the youngs are
Mhm.
listening to rap these days. Like they don't fucking care about Tupac. They just want to
Mm,
listen to
mhm.
Travis Scott. Like that's
Yeah.
fine. They don't have to justify that. They're hip hop heads. That's what rap is now.
Yeah.
Um and on the other hand, I think it is being disingenuous about what you think like quote quote real hip hop is and like putting a distinction in your mind between I keep going back to Tupac, but between a Tupac and between a Tupac and a like Lil Pump or whatever.
Yeah.
Like obviously those artists have different traits, but at the end of the day they both still fall under the umbrella of hip hop, and if you're a fan
Mhm.
of either, you can consider yourself a hip hop head. Like
Yeah.
where does Kanye fall on that? Like his music is neither entirely Tupac or entirely Lil Pump. It's like a middle point. If you're only
Yeah.
into Kanye West, are you a hip hop head? Of course, but like it's not either of those things.
Yeah. That was pretty much where I came to was I was saying that I think it's in music culture today, I think it's very unreasonable to expect the average music listener who depends very heavily on playlists and single tracks to commit themselves to learning the history of a genre before calling themselves a fan.
Hmm.
Because if you're listening to your new music daily and you happen across a Drake song and you happen to find that you like Drake, and then you go into your hip hop mix and you start listening to that and you think, wow, I really like this stuff. It really makes me feel a certain way. I wouldn't deny you saying that you are a hip hop fan. I think that that is still a valid way to enjoy the music. Not the way that I would, and I think it's a shame to miss out on album experiences, and it is a little sad if you do your entire experience with that genre in that way.
Yeah.
But it's not my way, it's not my place to say that you don't love that music, because
Yeah.
it was the same thing as like, I put it to him this way. I said that I put it to him this way. I said I feel like
That's
I'm in
cultural
Brooklyn.
appropriation
I feel like
of
I'm in
me.
Brooklyn.
You can't be
I'm
doing
sorry.
that.
I'm sorry. Do I have a pass for this time?
Yeah, I'll give you the unlimited pasta pass.
Oh, thank you. So I put it to him this way. I said that I had a real coming to God moment when I joined radio because I was sort of expecting to go in and I was like, okay, this is all of the music people, quote unquote, at SCAD who are going to join, and they probably listen to music in the same way that I do, and they probably discuss it in a similar way that I do.
Hmm.
And when I got there, I was like, oh, wait, these are people who love music just as much as I do, but I have zero musical overlap with them. And the way in which and the fervor with which we engage with music is completely different. But that does not invalidate the way that they enjoy it and whether or not I can call them a fan of it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. I I think like one way that I think about this a lot is people arguing if like Fallout Boy are punk. You
Mm,
know?
yeah.
I have a coworker now who is really into like Sleeping with Sirens and that era of like metalcore adjacent pop punk, like
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um uh of Mice and Men. Yeah, that those guys. Stuff like
Hmm.
that. And she just uses the blanket term punk for it all the time. Like she's just like, yeah, I only listen to K-pop and punk. Like those are her two genres. And like I'm like, so obviously my like eyelid twitches a little bit every time I
Yeah.
hear that, right? Like
Yeah.
just instinctively, like me who listens to fucking like Bad Brains and Pup and Jeff Rosenstock, like my eyebrow, my eyelid twitches a little bit every time I hear that. Like punk, okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
But like I don't know, like it is punk. It is a sub branch of punk. And if the
Hmm.
label of punk makes her happy and the way that she like I don't know dresses and styles herself and like the circles in which she hangs out in and the vibe at the concerts she likes to go to and all that, if all of that is saying like I am punk and all of that is saying like you are all punks for enjoying this music, then like fuck dude, yeah, it's punk. Like
Yeah.
like you are a punk fan. I think any suburban white mom would be just as offended by Sleeping with Sirens as they would by Bad Brains. Like it's all the same. It's all the same.
Yeah. No, I think that a good example of that in recent years as well has been sort of the resurgence of new metal. Like a lot
Yeah.
of people are loving like Korn and Deftones and all of that recently. Especially I've seen like a huge rise in like new metal and metalcore aesthetics being adopted by people who exclusively listen to new metal.
Yeah.
And metalheads are like, okay, but make sure you don't say that you are into metal. You're into new metal. And I'm like, nobody generally who listens to music in a broad sense and doesn't really care about genres or know much about it is gonna care either way if you say that you like new metal and you play Korn versus if you say I like metal and you play Korn. They're not
Yeah.
gonna know the difference. All they're gonna say is, wow, this is loud and fast.
I will also say I think it's really funny that that debate is even happening in 2022, because the way that I think metal and jazz, and I guess like mainstream country to a degree, are like kind of the only spaces left where genre cross-pollination and like people who listen to multiple genres of music like don't exist anymore. You know, like
Yeah.
I feel like even back in the 80s, 90s, and even the early 2000s, like you had a genre a lot of the time.
Mhm.
And a lot of those genres like had separate entire like fashion styles and stores where you went to buy the music, and like scenes that would never overlap with each other. Like you wouldn't have like a rock fan that was also a hip hop fan, or a person that listened to both pop and like underground dance. Like that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, and if it did, it would be, like, very hush hush for them. They would pick
Right.
one scene and stick to it.
Yeah. And like and that's why like people who fused genres back in the day got so much like critical adulation and acclaim and like incredible like that those were huge strides forward for music. And now Lil Nas X's Old Town Road is just like a funny meme song, you know?
Yeah,
Like
par for the course.
yeah. Not that Lil Nas X's Old Town Road isn't massive strides forward for music, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do think that metal in some ways is starting to segregate, and
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
I don't know if that's just my spaces that I occupy online, but I definitely see people making distinctions between metal, like straight up, new metal, and stuff like black metal.
Mhm.
Um, and I also see metal fans in much the same way that they dismissed much more before new metal, specifically the band Ghost. They're not fond of. Like,
Just like you.
yeah, exactly. I relate to them. That's why I've noticed it. But have you ever seen the 4chan? I'm sorry about bringing this website up.
No, I
But
have
have you
seen this,
seen
yes.
where it's like my friend told me this is metal for people who don't like metal. It sounds like Scooby-Doo chase music for the first Ghost album, and I was like, yeah, you're right. Like it does. And but that doesn't like if I were to tell people what is this music, I would say, oh, it's like I would say it's like pop metal. I wouldn't say that it's not metal.
Yeah. I mean, it is like kind of scrimblow bimblow glam rock a lot of the time, but it does
Yeah.
also have like big crunchy guitars and uses a lot of the aesthetics of like black metal and death metal. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm sure people like go fucking crazy at the shows.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's like I have definitely seen metal starting to like metal has always like, oh god, like segregated like crazy. Like that's always kind of been their thing. Like there's a million subgenres and all of them are so niche and
Yeah.
so like I
Like
said gore
black metal
grind.
versus Norwegian black metal, you know?
Yeah, I said gore grind earlier and I'm like almost embarrassed that I know what that is, you know? It's like
It's okay, I do too.
it's like I like we make fun of like Last.fm and Rate Your Music all the time for having all these like bullshit genres that don't exist.
Escape room.
Yeah, or whatever. But metal has like championed that for
Oh
years.
yeah.
Like minor distinctions between styles like get whole scenes in and of themselves. I
Mhm.
think like early 2010s dubstep kind of did that too. Like you have like squeak step and
Dude,
noise
yeah.
step and rave step.
Being in
Um
the comments section on Monster Cat releases and
yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about.
seeing entire like threads of people being like, this isn't actually this is how many BPM it has, this isn't glitch hop. It's like
This isn't glitch hop, this is fuck step. You
yeah,
need
I'm
to
like
get with the times.
I'm like, I'm sorry that the waveform isn't in the right color for you.
The Monster Cat wiki list of genres is like a fucking treasure trove
Oh my
of
god.
insane things. I'm pulling it up right now. We can get to we can move on to something actually important after this. But the list of the genre list on this website is just fucking incredible.
I think that getting super into EDM as a young one and getting really into those genre distinctions myself is the reason why I'm so burnt out on genre now. Because I spent so much time and energy on it as a kid that now when I'm an adult, I'm like, I'm beyond this.
I think the reason that I'm burnt out on it is because I've kind of always done I've probably talked about it on the podcast before, but I'm the freakazoid that's still like, I do all my own metadata for my songs, and
Yeah,
I
you were
like,
wild for that.
yeah, I like maintain a giant fucking iTunes library of MP3s, and I listen on an iPod. But like, I put a genre value in for all the songs, and after a certain point in my musical development, I'm staring in the face of like Gorillaz and Alt J, and I'm like, what fucking genre do I put this under? And it's like, it's not real. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've found the page for dubstep on the Monster Cat wiki, and I'm just scrolling through it. Subgenres: bro step, carnival, color bass, death step, festival rhythm, festival tear out, liquid dubstep, early dubstep, UK dubstep, deep dubstep, melodic dubstep, metal step, neuro step, rhythm.
I have to know how Rate Your Music users feel about metal step.
Great. Really great, I bet. Radio music users just go crazy over a genre. Like a new genre, they'll just eat it up. I love looking at like the top things of genres. Like the like if something has a weird genre tag, I love clicking on it and seeing like what the top fucking release of like that random genres. That's actually how I found Marjorie W.C. Sinclair. Because one of her things is like the top album of all time in Detroit Trap, which is hilarious. That's so funny. Why?
Yeah, no, that's like, I mean, the best example, the hot on the presses example is Hex D. When we got into Skank, we were like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess to tie a bow on this, I guess our thesis is don't gatekeep yourself from liking things, and also don't judge other people for the way that they consume music, because they probably like it just as much as you, but in a different way.
Genre has been fake, and fanhood has been made up for as long as either of those things have existed. And
yeah,
I'm glad that people are starting to figure that out now that music is more accessible than it has ever been.
there is literally fandom gatekeeping in the Bible. Like, you should get over it now, because it is the year of our Lord 2022, and I think we can get beyond that.
I know you probably mean Christianity as a fandom, but in my head I'm just thinking like Peter, the Rock of the Church, was really into warrior cats.
Dude, who would he kin? He would definitely kin like Stonefur or some shit.
Well, he is the Rock, so yeah.
Exactly. Okay, anyway.
Judas is ash fur.
Oh my god.
I know exactly enough about the Bible and exactly enough about warrior cats to make that joke.
I'm like trying to I mean, obviously Jesus is Firestar.
Yes, clearly.
Mary has gotta be Snowfur, which is Blue Star's sister.
I think Judas, I don't know who either of those people are. Either of those cats are. I think Judas has to be Vriska. Anyway.
Oh my god.
Would you like to talk about a very, very funny man?
I would love to talk about the funny man himself. The little funny man, if you will.
Little silly man.
Oh my god. Okay, well, let's kick off the main segment of the pod with I still hate looking at in my notes Megan's choice and Sophie's choice, because I feel weird saying Sophie's choice out loud.
I think Sophie from Sophie's Choice would have loved this album, but that's just me.
So anyway, for Sophie's new for you choice for me is Lil Ugly Mane with Mr. Thug Isolation.
Turn me up some 665 plus one. I'm entitled to my money like a trust fund. Come up off the dogs, let me touch one. Drops on every corner like the way the city bus runs. You know that I'm the acting fool again and lick shots in unison.
I feel like me being obsessed with this album is like maybe the most predictable thing about me.
And I think that if anybody is a longtime listener and has been here for my journey to hip hop headhood, um, I think that it makes sense that this is one that's a little bit of a tough pill for me. Um,
Yeah.
so I listened to this album once in like August when we were gonna film this episode initially.
In a fugue
Um,
state, I'm sure.
yeah, and I listened to it and I came out of it and I said, "What?" Um, especially having listened to his like alt country single like the week before.
Yeah.
And I
You
was
know
like,
he
"What happened from here to there?"
he started as like a death metal musician, right?
Yeah, and I know that now like Volcanic Bird Enemy and The Voice Concern or whatever is his
Yeah.
recent one, and I know that that one's very different and has more rock inclinations,
It's like
if I
psych rock,
remember.
yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, it like made sense to me, but also I wasn't expecting, I guess, such a reverent display in terms of like homages and
Hmm.
sort of satire of Southern hip hop and Memphis rap. Like it's very on the nose in terms of like how vulgar the lyrics are,
Hmm.
which I think that's the highlight for me is listening for the bars,
Hmm.
and also like just the it's really well produced. Like the beats are pretty infallible, as far as the way that they're put together. I think that some definitely steal the show for me, as opposed to others. Like I think that the highlights for me in terms of beats are probably Serious Shit,
Hmm.
Wishmaster, Bitch I'm Lugubrious, and Mona Lisa Overdrive. I think that those tracks all have to me the best balance of vocal presence and beat and have enough going on in the beat for there to be a justification for them to not really change, you know?
Yeah.
But overall, Memphis rap is not really my thing in terms of like the way that it's just like the whole conceit of it being that the beats are what they are and they don't
Hmm.
really move. Like they have subtractions in them sometimes, but they don't often like develop in a really major way.
Hmm.
That's not really something I would ever go for.
Hmm.
But this is definitely an album that I appreciate having heard for like literacy sake. But
It's so funny for you to say that about an album called Mista Thug Isolation
it
with a
really
song
is
called Bitch
like
I'm Lugubrious.
in terms of like being an internet music person, this is like necessary listening.
Yeah.
That I had not done. So I do appreciate it for that.
We gave each other homework assignments today.
We did. But yeah, I think that after having given it 2 listens over like 3 months, I can pretty safely say not my thing, sadly.
Yeah. Very fair, very fair. For me, I think I can point at you know that there's like some songs in like your musical development that you can like point at and be like, "Oh yeah, that's a benchmark song."
Yeah.
Both Bitch I'm Lugubrious and Wishmaster are that for me. Like
Bitch, I'm morose and
and
lugubrious.
I'ma let the Uzi spit turn his face into gooey
Gooey
shit.
shit.
He is like so I liked I mean I've always liked rap. I mean I got into rap through Doom and like Doom is funny. Doom is very often like he'll say some shit that is like makes you like spin your head around like what did you just
Like a
say?
comical musical spit take.
Yeah. But I don't think I had ever considered that anybody could rap what's the fucking line on I equate your uselessness to bitches that are bootyless. Your YouTube page is viewerless. It's humorous.
Yeah.
Like on a song, and like I like it because like up until I saw like I heard this, I would be like, if I think about like quote comedy in rap, I think I would think
Mhm.
of fucking like Lil Dicky. Like that's my
Yeah.
immediate. But like rappers are often irreverent and are often like unhinged, and this is like kind of the most that of all time.
Yeah.
I don't know. And on top of production like this too, just like really turned a key in my brain. I think Wishmaster is like the greatest fucking beat.
Yeah,
That shit
Wishmaster goes hard.
that shit awakened me.
I think that this album's bars are like a real litmus test for whether or not you can get out of your own head when listening to music and just enjoy the character.
Yeah.
And it's probably also like thinking about this character is probably also the reason why you pretty shamelessly enjoy the new Young Gravy.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it's just they're very directly linked in that way. I bet Gravy probably really enjoys this album.
That's a really, really funny comparison. I never drew that line. Okay, Gravy. Okay,
Now we're gonna diverge into
now
a
I'm
Gravy
gonna
tangent.
now I'm gonna do this. Gravy is stupid.
We're getting on the Gravy train.
That Gravy tree. That Wonderful by Young Gravy, Marvelous by Young Gravy is like a fucking stupid album. It is so dumb. It is like reveling in being dumb. It doesn't want to be anything more than dumb.
Yeah.
This isn't like this. There's like even a lot of the time on like Gravy stuff, the production is in service of the joke. Like he does like these really classic soul samples, and then he'll be like, "Just fucked your mom."
Yeah.
This is like he's saying outrageous things, but the delivery is like perfectly suited to the beat, you know?
Yeah. And there's also like the undercurrent of like what's the fucking interlude where it's like about being alone.
Oh,
and
that's fucking Last Breath?
No, there's an interlude that's like literally called like Alone or
Oh,
something
Alone
like
in
that.
Suffering.
Yeah. And I think that kind of gives the conceit away that like it is a character not only because of how outrageous the bars are in the sense of like, wow, this is a very vulgar person.
Yeah.
But also in the sense of like, oh, this is an exaggerated show of how the people who write these bars in seriousness would have this sort of internal sadness and longing about them.
Mhm.
Like the part where in the album he's like, don't fall in love because at the end of the day a bitch is a bitch, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and then from there, Alone and Suffering. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay,
No,
I
it's
see
true.
this exactly.
Okay. I did Google. It's unbelievable to me that you connected those dots because I just Googled Young Gravy, Lil Ugly Mane, and I found a tweet from Young Gravy from 2019, and it says, "Lil Ugly Mane, I will pay you $50,000 to start making music again. I'm 100% serious."
Dude, don't ever say I'm not a hip hop head again. I am on this shit.
Yeah, Megan's a real hip hop head, guys. She listens to Lil Ugly Mane and Young Gravy.
See, I have the context now. See, I'm a real fan.
Yeah, now after listening to Bitch I'm Lugubrious, you have the necessary context to understand Young Gravy's genius.
I read the classics.
Yeah.
This is like reading hip hop theory.
Yeah. Were you surprised to see Denzel Curry on here?
I saw that and I was like, whoa. Okay.
Yeah, they used to hang back in the day.
I think
Ugly
that
Mane has...
having Ugly Mane on Melt Your Eyes would be a little bit strange.
He has production credits on some of Denzel's earlier stuff.
What happened between them?
Nothing. They're just friends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think they still hang out. I think Ugly Mane is much older than Denzel. I don't know how old Denzel Curry is. My brain says like 26.
Yeah.
Denzel Curry is 27.
Wow.
And Lil Ugly Mane is... Yeah, he's almost 40. So I don't think they're like in the same circles much anymore, but I think they were when Denzel was younger and when Ugly Mane was younger.
Yeah. I think that this also was very interesting to return to now when Ugly Mane is releasing all these singles, because they are very much in the direction of Volcanic Bird Enemy.
Yeah.
Where I can't believe that's an album title.
Where it's awesome.
Where they are more rock influenced and a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
So it was kind of odd, I guess, and I think good, and it creates sort of a compelling train in my mind.
Yeah.
To jump from this sort of seminal point in his career.
Yeah.
To now the complete divergence from it. Where people still love what he's doing, but it's so different from this.
I love that the audience has transferred. Like, it's all the same people who listened to Mr. Thug Isolation that still like Volcanic Bird Enemy.
Yeah.
And I think that comes down to like the sheer force of his personality being so strong.
Yeah.
I'll also say that the transition has been a little more gradual than I think it might be in your mind, because it's not like he just jumped straight from Mr. Thug Isolation to Volcanic Bird Enemy, like he had like a whole bunch of beat tapes that he like did that slowly moved in that direction. Like there's a song on like his 3-sided tape. There's a song on Volcanic Bird Enemy called Headboard that is one of his best songs ever. That song is amazing. And it's like just straight up like a little psych rock song, and it first appeared on one of his beat tapes, like it was just in there. And yeah, like obviously he's done all his bedwetter stuff in the metal lane. He's done like some straight up experimental sound play stuff, and then there's also Oblivion Access, which is certainly a thing. So I like it is, there's very much like a broad arc there, and a very like it's very easy if you want to like get an understanding of who he is as a person behind this character and like where his artistic head is at. I think like that is part of the reason that he has won such a fan base that will stick with him regardless of whatever U-turn he takes next, because it's like no matter what, you're listening more for the guy and the personality than any specific sound, because there's a lot that could have initially captured you, you know?
Yeah, he definitely is a big character. And I would say, I mean, even aside from internet literacy, I suppose, which was part of why I was like eager to hear this. I think that generally, if anybody is interested, there is most likely one benchmark in his discography that will click with you.
Yeah.
This one wasn't the one for me, but I think that I would probably enjoy Volcanic Bird Enemy, so I'll probably go back and listen to that.
I think you would actually probably like Oblivion Access. Volcanic Enemy, yeah, Volcanic Bird is good. I really like it. I don't think it's especially like deep. I think even this album has more like messaging and thematic layers to it. Because there's a lot of themes on this of like gore and like bodies dissolving and like gross shit happening to your body as your like mind is being isolated, that come back even stronger on Oblivion Access. Like that is a rap album, but it is like the pitch darkest, like most like mentally like at your lowest scraping rock bottom point rap album I've probably ever heard, and it's like really difficult at times. It's definitely the most like emotionally keyed in Ugly Mane thing, and if you're in it for the bars, I think you would probably like that one the best, because there's a lot of interesting concepts on that album.
I will give it a try and report back to you.
All right.
Shall we move on?
Oh, we shall.
Okay. Would you like to introduce it?
I would love to. My one introduction point. I'm like dashing into the spotlight in like sequined pants.
Yeah.
For New For You this week, Megan has given me an album that is very near and dear to her, I guess like lower torso now.
It's near to my the left side of my rib cage.
Yeah. It is Fleet Foxes with Helplessness Blues.
Oh man, oh my. Oh man, what I used to do. Oh man, oh
I really hope that wasn't just my headphones and that effect comes through in the final podcast, because you like went from ear to ear and it was like you were like running circles around me going.
When I think about this album, I have like the Rob Zombie, like the Lil Uzi Rob Zombie poster noise playing in my head.
Oh my god. Okay. This album is wonderful. This is spectacular. So Fleet Foxes are one of those bands that had to beat the quote quote stuffy allegations for me, because and this is much more a thing with like younger me. I'm much more willing to like click on whatever weird shit these days. But in my younger days, there was a lot of bands that like for some reason got amalgamated into this general like subsection of indie music that's like stuffy, and I don't want to listen to it. And like it was always that word that like was like what I associated these bands and these albums with, even though I'd never listened to them. And it's like Wilco, Fleet Foxes, The Shins, fucking Death Cab for Cutie, Destroyer at first before I really got into him, and like
Grizzly Bear?
no, I like Grizzly Bear. I always like Grizzly Bear. And yeah,
Bon
just
Iver?
like a bunch Bon Iver, yes. Elliott Smith also.
Really?
Yeah. It really is just like a random assortment of things. And I think in my head that was like exactly what your brother was doing. It's like mentally gatekeeping, like preemptively shooting myself down from even attempting these because it's like, oh, you won't get it. Like this isn't for you. And I don't know why the word stuffy was the one that came to mind there, because I think mentally what I was trying to do was justify my like, I guess like intimidation of this like genre of music, because this is all kind of like, you know, indie rock for dads, you know? Like I a Spoon also. When I said indie rock for dads, I was like Spoon and The National. But it's like I think I was trying to preempt my dislike of these albums that I think I perceived as like correctly critically acclaimed. Like I was trying to like preemptively say like, oh, these aren't for me, so that I would never have to like interact with my intimidation of them, you know, like just putting it off until the inevitable.
You were doing what I did for Radiohead, where I was like, I don't think that I'm built for Radiohead, so I am never going to touch Radiohead. They are stuffy, in fact. But yeah, I was doing that.
Yeah, so and I'm going to be real with you, I genuinely didn't know what to expect at all going into this, because I have never, ever, as a result, interacted with Fleet Foxes even one bit. I have not heard White Winter Hymnal. I don't know what it sounds like.
I don't think it's their best song by a long shot.
Well, I mean, I obviously don't think that now that I've listened to this, because I still don't know it, and now I know several other songs. But like, that song is pretty ubiquitous in like indie spaces, and I've never heard it. And I also am looking at their top songs now and seeing that a song called Mykonos is even more popular, and I didn't even know that was a song. I'd never heard of it.
Honestly, a lot of people don't. Mykonos got its time in the sun like in MySpace days.
Funny. What album is this? Oh, it's like
EP.
old shit.
Their first EP as Fleet Foxes, yeah.
I see. Yeah, so that's my preamble to this, is that I went into this with absolutely no idea what to expect, like literally at all. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And it's fucking insane to me that I thought this would be stuffy. This is like the antithesis of the word stuffy. Like you couldn't get more like rich and soulful and like fluid than this album. The arrangements and the production are so fucking rich and textured. And it's mostly produced by Robin Pecknold himself, and also Phil Eck, who his work I have actually really liked before, which I didn't realize. I have to look what it was, because I was looking at his discog and I was like, oh shit, oh yeah, he made Wincing the Night Away, which I also love now. And like I totally hear it too. Like they have very similar like resonances to them. Like they ring in similar ways. And it is also extremely funny hearing this and suddenly immediately understanding exactly what every other fucking indie folk act has been trying to copy for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Like this is the source point. I get it. I really, really like this. This is an album that I am almost hesitant to say too much about, because I only got to listen to it like twice, one of which was literally today before we recorded this. And I feel like I owe it more than that. I was struggling to come up with like a thematic through line to it, because it's pretty topically diverse and it's pretty like almost stream of consciousness at points. Like it's very, very abstract. And I couldn't gel with like what a coherent narrative for this album would be, even though like it definitely feels like it has that through line, like just structurally and melodically. But yeah, I really, really like this. And I'm very excited to like go back and find out more of what it has to offer for me.
Yay! I'm really glad to hear that. Fleet Foxes, for any new listeners, are my favorite band of all time, and this is my favorite album of all time. And the reason why we were saying that it's very close to my heart and my rib cage is because I recently got 2 parts of the cover tattooed on my left ribs.
And it's a big ass tattoo too.
It's
like,
a big tattoo.
Not a small tattoo.
No, it's my biggest one. And I love it dearly. Yeah, this album is the one that taught me really to love music. It's very intimate in that way, where I felt very connected with it the moment that I heard it. And it sort of has led me through my musical journey since then. And I definitely agree that this is a big source point for a lot of folk and indie folk now, especially because if you go back and listen to their self-titled, which I personally, my Fleet Foxes hot take is I think it's not their best album. I think it's their worst. It a lot of the really quiet folk acts, like some of the more acoustic Hozier, feels very indebted to early Fleet Foxes.
Oh, for sure. My God.
And so whenever people talk a lot about those and they're like, you would like this, I'm like, I'm never going to, because it's never going to have the same resonance with me as this does.
I'll defend Hozier because I think he's an amazing lyricist. That's what I'll say about Hozier. But this album, I was specifically like, it's actually really funny that you brought up Hozier, because I didn't make that connection, but I actually brought up I actually thought of, when I was listening to this, the vocal harmonies. There's a lot of like throwback. It's very like barbershop quartet vocal harmonies on this, and also very Beach Boys, which is funny. But yeah, I immediately thought of this band called Little Green Cars, which are an Irish band. The song I was thinking of is like this song called Harper Lee, which is a song that I've just liked for a really long time. It's from 2013, and I didn't know Fleet Foxes at the time, but that is like point for point a Fleet Foxes song. And Little Green Cars, Hozier used to be in a band with the members of Little Green Cars, which is really funny. That's sense. Really random.
Yeah.
I think my favorite tracks on this album would be, drumroll please, Montezuma. That song is that. So I wrote that this song sounds like a logging song created by ghosts. It's like it's very like old weird America, like Bob Dylan era, like loggers in the Midwest, middle of fucking nowhere Minnesota, like singing this song to each other while like cutting down timber and risking their lives. I don't know, something about it. It's very very foresty, very spooky, very like passionate. The lead guitar melody on that song is fucking amazing. Bedouin Dress is unbelievable. And I suddenly understood Beirut, like listening to this song. I was like, he sure liked this band, huh? Sim Salabim is really good. I kind of fell off. I like Battery Kinsey, and then I kind of fell off with The Plains Bitter Dancer.
That is my skip on this album.
Yeah, I didn't love it. And then I think the title track is actually my favorite, which the Spotify plays agree with me, actually, which I hadn't looked at that until now. But yeah, that was my favorite. At the very ending, when like the production just like breaks open a bit at the end, like I literally, like, as soon as I was driving in my car, and as soon as the song hit that point, I literally like had the mental image of someone like cracking an egg and like the yolk like spilling out on the counter. Like the song, like it's not like violent in that way, but it's like it's like you've cracked something open and are like now reaping the reward at the end.
Yeah,
like,
it feels
a lot of hard work for it.
It feels like something is taking its first breath, almost.
Yeah, I actually was gonna say breaking open a geode and like you're looking at the crystals in the middle. I feel like Pitchfork. Shoot me, Megan. You have to shoot me before I turn into a pitchfork writer. The Cascades is very pretty. It's like for basically just an interlude. It's very well produced. I think it's one of the best produced moments on here. The dynamics are crazy. Lorelei is amazing.
Yeah.
Probably my second favorite track. And then Someone You'd Admire is okay. And I will admit, I kind of fall off towards the end, which I feel a little bad about. I like the Shrine and Argument. Like I know, I get, like, I listen to it, like, okay, I get it. I know what they're going for here. I understand. But like by the end of it, it's like, okay, it's been like 8 minutes. I'm good. Like I get its place in the album and I understand, like, I get what they're going for here and I respect it, but I don't really need to listen to it again. And then Blue Spotted Tail is just like the brand of folk that it's hard to sell me, like just very quiet acoustic folk that it's hard to sell me on. Grown Ocean is good. But if I know Grown Ocean is kind of your song, if I have heard other bands now do Grown Ocean so many times that I think it's almost getting like the Seinfeld effect for me. Where like I respect it, I get it, and this was probably really original and like trailblazing when it happened, but like I have now heard this song by other artists 5 billion times, and like it's just not, it isn't sticking with me at this point. Although it could on repeat listens.
Yeah, I think that you're very much having almost the same experience that I did my first time listening to it. To me, this is an album that I connected with on like a spiritual level the first time that I heard it, but on a musical level, I didn't love all of it. In fact, I hated The Shrine my first time listening to it. I thought that it was a terrible song and I wanted it to die. And now it's my favorite on the album. So, you know, but I really started to connect with a lot of the moments on this album when it got contextualized with the sort of personal aspect of it, I guess. Which the whole like thing of this album, the reason it's called Helplessness Blues and all that, is because it's about the feeling of being young after the market crash in 2008 and having to try and find your place in the world, and the world is actively bucking you. You can't find your place. You're trying to reach back to like historical tropes. Like there's a fucking like Romeo and Juliet reference on Lorelei.
Hello, Josh Tillman.
Yeah, stuff like that. Like it's very it's introspective, but in sort of a broad way, where it's not only what he's thinking, it sort of applies to a lot of open sort of concepts. So that's the through line, is just being lost in a world that is in array at the moment. Grown Ocean was my first track I ever heard from them. I heard it from a an online AMV, it was an MAP, the animator
if
project.
you will.
It was a map. It was an Alley Cat map. I found her because she used to organize Warrior Cats ones, and I got stuck on one part of it. And I kept going back and rewatching that part, and eventually I realized I was watching it for the song and not the animation. And I was like, what's happening here? Because at the time, I exclusively listened to EDM. And so when I listened to this album all the way through, it made me do a complete 180 on music. And I was like, okay, I'm not just in it for the hype. I'm not in it for like the blown out artificial highs that I get from EDM, which I do love now still. But I was then in it for the emotional aspect of it. And it means a lot to me for that. And I agree that this is definitely sort of a roadmap album for a lot of tropes that now are like big in indie and folk. But I still think, and I will stand by this, that these examples of those tropes remain the best. Like I think that for as many bands that have done Grown Ocean, nobody can hit it with those like really reverberant like drum hits or the like flute above it all at the end. The way that it just drops off at the end, those really high harmonies, like I can't think of any other song that has done that sort of like cathedral level expansion of a song that I've felt as intimate with, you know?
Yeah.
Which that is very much like I'm biased there. But yeah.
It's kind of funny, like, because I really respect you, and I am intimidated by you for ripping the Band-Aid off and giving me just like your fucking favorite album for this stupid podcast.
Sorry.
Because like, I don't know, like, what if I hated it? Like, I know you probably knew I wouldn't, but like, what if I did? You
I've
never
shown
know.
this to people and they have hated it, and I've just been like,
Well,
"Ooh."
those people are gay, derogatory. This album is like, it's funny because like I went into it and literally the only context I had is like, this is Megan's favorite album. That's all I know. And like, you're my friend and you are my co-host, and like, it's weird. Like, it's like walking around in somebody's house when they're not there, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm listening to this and I'm like, oh, I bet like listening to a song like the title track of this album, and like hearing all these like little like quivers in the strings and like little vocal flourishes, and like the way that song like breaks open at the end, and like I was, this is gonna sound like fucking like stalker psycho shit, but I was picturing you like, if I'm in the car driving with this song and you're sitting in the passenger seat, like right as that thing hits, you like bunk your head, like you knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And like, it's interesting to like hear these songs that I know that you've like lived in for so long, and like come away from it like, oh yeah, I get it. Yeah, I understand. I get it. That's nice.
Yeah.
And I hope that as I spin this more, I will get to know it just as well.
Okay.
Now balls in my court to throw Plastic Beach at your ass. So
yeah, and I'm
maybe.
excited about it because Gorillaz is a band I've never listened to anything of.
Oh,
so
shit,
it's
for real?
very much the exact same situation. Never ever.
Goddamn. Never ever. Like,
never
you
ever.
Feel Good Inc?
Like in the car, 30 seconds of it maybe.
Okay,
like
sure.
not ever. So this is we will have parallel experiences with this.
Yeah. So you have to hit me with something that like, I don't know, has the energy of Mista Thug Isolation next to
Oh my god. I'll try. But yeah, this album, I could be a Fleet Foxes historian. I know so much about their history as a band, but
your best friend Robin Pecknold.
My bestie Robin, the closer of this album, this is my fun fact I'll give you about this. The closer of it, Grown Ocean, ends in an incomplete chord. Because the first note of Crack Up fills that chord. And that's crazy because Crack Up is made after a 6-year hiatus, and the band basically broke up during that time.
Boy, they were smoking crack up.
Shut up. and it's funny that you point out that it was produced by Robin, because he did end up during that time going to Columbia for music production. So now he does basically all of their production.
Neat.
Yeah, so that's the end of my Fleet Foxes history lesson. But I'm glad that you liked it. And I do hope that you get some of the experience that I have with it, which is I listen to this album and I think about moments in my life, and there are things that are attached to it. So I hope that you're able to kind of sit with it for long enough that maybe some things might attach themselves to it, and it'll get that sort of, it'll be like moss on a rock, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So yeah.
Plastic Beach is not moss on a rock. It's like you just like bit into a jar of Vaseline. Smiles.
That's so appetizing. I'm so excited now. Okay, and with that we can get into the albums. Dun dun dun.
For the week.
All right, we're gonna kick it off with Brockhampton, The Family.
Still talking. Do we see each other? Hardly. Should we made together? Godly. Did we suffer too many motherfucking albums? Probably. Got my first gold teeth at the swap meet. Felt the temperature change when we drop heat. Came such a long way.
This is my first time with Mr. Brock.
Well, you've arrived just in time for him to kick Mr. Hampton out of the band.
It's
It's Brock's solo album.
Dr. Jekyll has been stripped of Mr. Hyde.
I really thought Hampton was the yin to Brock's yang. I'm sad. I'm sad it had to come to this.
Yeah.
This is interesting. I am a very big fan of the Brocks and the Hamptons. I've been riding their coattails since like 20. That's not what that phrase means, but I've been on the waves. I've like used words that don't mean what they mean today a lot.
We're doing malapropisms today on the podcast.
Yes, only malapropisms.
Yeah, you said that. Only malapropisms.
I had to massage it in my mouth a little bit. You know? Yeah, I've been riding the wave since like around Sat 2. I was late to Sat 1, but I got on the party at about Sat 2, and then I really got on the party with Sat 3 because the Were the Kids boogie animation. I've been following Were the Kids for even longer, so when that came out, I was like, what the fuck? That's the same guys? Yeah, so I've been on this wave for a while, and boy,
what a
wow. Closure. Yeah. This
not
is
in a good way.
I'm split. So Brockhampton get a lot of shit from like tough guy rap fans about like for being like emotional, right? Like that's always been like these guys just rap about their feelings all the time. But I think like broadly across their discog, while that's true, it's also been like 6 different people's feelings at all times, really loudly, and like presented in a very colorful and like stylish manner, right? Like it's you're never getting just one character portrait. You're getting like 3 verses of like normal rap stuff, and then maybe one of the members decides to open up on that song, and then they go back into whatever they were doing before.
Yeah.
Whereas this is like, I feel like I should say the conceit of the album, which is that this is a Kevin Abstract solo project. The other members of the band are not on this album at all.
No.
Bareface is on most of the production here, and he is the only member of Brockhampton besides Kevin that is credited here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the boy band is over. They are broken up.
Yeah.
And this was partially made to get out of the record contract that they still had with RCA, because as Kevin says himself, they probably signed for too many motherfucking albums. So like he made this, and there's also TM, which is like a B-sides comp that they drop as like their official ending album. That fucking sucks. That I will say loudly and proudly with all my heart. TM by Brockhampton fucking blows. This. So do you want to go first? Because I've got shit to say. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So this, for context, I think I liked maybe 4 Brockhampton songs throughout high school. I don't.
Oh no.
I know. So I don't really have much love for them like going into this album. It was my first time, like I said, going through a full album of theirs, which kind of funny that it's their deathbed album. That's a bit of a habit of mine now.
Starting point.
I did that with Black Star by Bowie too. Like it's just a thing that I do, I guess.
Yeah. But I mean, you had cultural context for Bowie before, like you knew Bowie songs.
No. I thought that Changes by Bowie was an original to the Shrek soundtrack until high school.
God damn, bro.
Yeah, I did not have context. My mom doesn't like Bowie, and my dad didn't listen, so I didn't hear any of it.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah. So this album is incredibly top heavy, I think. The first 2 tracks I think are nice. I like RZA. The inclusion of the choral elements are okay.
The RZA.
I didn't know if it was a play on RCA, so I was like, RZA?
Well, it is, because he says that they do like the RCA thing at the end, but it's RZA from Wu-Tang Clan saying that.
Oh, okay. And from there, it's just a lot of very weird cuts that are either way too short to go anywhere, are just kind of bad in general, I think. Or almost weirdly, it feels like our bad injury reserve covers. Like the songs Back from the Road and Basement are like terrible, I think.
Back from the road into basement into Southside is 3 just huge L's. Those are fucking miserable.
Terrible shit. Those are the 3 that I actually took the time to write in my notes. These are bad.
Back from the Road is like, oh, he just like me for real.
Yeah, it feels like
so hard.
It almost feels like this might be a hot take, but I do not like Kids See Ghosts very much, and I hate the song.
Wow.
I hate the song Reborn because I think it sounds like Cuddy has glue in his mouth. And this feels like Reborn for this album.
Southside is like, Kevin has always done this thing where he like really wants to be MIA, and he does like MIA impressions on a lot of hooks.
Yeah.
And I've always thought it was like one of his weakest modes because that like the way that MIA delivers things comes from her background in like Sri Lankan music, and like Kevin is just kind of doing an impression of it, and Southside just is him doing that for a whole song instead of just a hook. So I don't know, and the beat's really bad too.
Yeah, that was the other thing about this. The production on it I thought was really odd. I thought that the production felt sort of weird and hollow and like tinny in some areas. Like none of the bass felt like it filled any corners, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes sense.
It was just kind of strange.
I like it for the most part. I think so. I agree with you that I think it's top heavy, but I think it also mostly picks it back up towards the end too. Although at that point, that is also the point of the album that's like got the most of the juicy details. But I think the midsection of the album like really sags.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the end for somebody who doesn't really care about the drama feels so self-pitying, and very much I think I was talking to one of my friends about this, and he was like, this really just shows like across an album how limited Kevin Abstract is as a lyricist. And I agree, because by the closing track, when he said, like, I miss the band already, I actually got angry. Because I was like, say something else. Like, say anything else. Like, he's been saying that either directly or in different verbiage for 30 minutes. Please say anything else. And then he says, like, trying to cancel me, like, go away. Please go away. It made me glad that the album was full of non-starters that were around 2 minutes long, because 4.5 went by like molasses at the end. Yeah, I did not enjoy this at all. And there was also a part in a song where he says that that the band and their friendship failed because he was turning all their interactions into art.
Yes.
And I was like, but here you are making an entire album airing out all of these interactions and feelings. Is that not like the ultimate ransacking of this relationship for content?
That was my like key thing with this album, because I think there's no way he's not aware of that, because I think to make an album about that concept and then like continue doing it is like, you have to be aware of that, because I think one of the core themes of this album is hypocrisy. And I think there's a lot of like, Kevin is like indicting himself for a lot of things on this album. And he talks about like, there's the part where he's like, on RZA, where he's like, all of the songs where I dissed my mom helped me help her stay in her home, is like, because he did a lot of songs early in Brockhampton's career about like how his mom kicked him out for being gay, but then like he took all the money from that song and then used it to like help her with her house payments and stuff like that. Like this album has a really interesting lens on like performative hypocrisy and like where are the lines between like saying one thing in public and doing another in private, like intentionally and unintentionally blur. And I think that's a really strong like foundation, especially for a breakup album, because this really is like, this is like a subversion of the idea of a breakup album on multiple points, because like I'm going to be honest with you, what other fucking breakup albums can you think of? Like,
yeah,
people have
even
been
when you
saying,
said
like,
that that's like a trope, I'm like, what? That's
exactly,
not
like but you think about like what an album like by a band on the verge of breaking up would be like. And I'm going to cite the Beatles, which is probably going to piss some people off, but it's the first example that comes to mind. And the Beatles technically kind of have two breakup albums, and they're Abbey Road and Let It Be. Abbey Road was the last one chronologically recorded, but the second to last one chronologically released. And Let It Be is the other way around. It's the last one released, but it's the it comes before Abbey Road chronologically. So Let It Be is kind of the Beatles at like their absolute low point. Like they're fucking fighting all the time. Half of them can't stand to be in the room with each other, and they can't even like finish the songs, so they bring in like an outside producer to like spruce shit up. And like it's like a good album because they're like good musicians, but it's clearly got some holes in it. And then Abbey Road is them like, okay, we're gonna break up. This is all falling apart. We can all tell it's falling apart. Let's muscle together and make one last great thing before we bow out. And so like, in my mind, if you're thinking about what a breakup album could be, those are the two paths, right? Either you completely fall apart and deliver something subpar, or you like are like, okay, one more run and then we go out, right?
Yeah.
And so this is kind of trying to be both at once, intentionally. Like, he keeps fucking talking about like, this is, I only made this to get out of the record contract.
Yeah.
But also is like, the line that I was obsessed with on Big Pussy is like, I don't know what the sample is on the front of this song when the guy's like, fuck you, oh big pussy. I don't know what that is, but I love that. The label needed 35 minutes of music. It's the true shit, faggot N-word out of Houston, which is like, the first half of that is like, the label needed 35 minutes of music. Like, okay, you are actively playing it, like padding out this album on purpose. And then it's the true shit, faggot N out of Houston is like such a good, like encompassing line that like, he's playing with the idea that he is like trying or not trying. Like this is a real like piece of art that I'm putting forward, or it's just a contract obligation. Like it all ties back into like the hypocrisy thing for me.
Yeah.
It's like an album by a boy band that only has one guy on it. It really is like doubling, and it's called The Family, but it's just one guy.
Yeah.
So it is really playing with ideas about hypocrisy and like, when it's personal, but at the same time it's real and personal, but at the same time it's artificial and fake and created art. And I think it's weightier ideas than Kevin can really get a handle on, while also trying to like give a straight-faced story about how the band broke up. That's my take.
Yeah. I don't know. I at the end of the day, I am not the target audience for this. I don't think that this was intended for people who don't like the band, or have like very little to no investment in the band. Yeah, definitely for fans. So I feel weird commenting on it, but at the same time, if you're gonna air out that dirty laundry, I'm gonna comment on it, you know?
Yeah.
I'm a messy bitch.
A messy bitch who lives for drama.
For the drama, exactly. I'm Joanne the Scammer.
I have two other comments on this. The big one is that I did tear up in the last song, the song called Brockhampton, which like, I don't know, I haven't had much of a like real emotional investment in this band for a little while, probably not since like Iridescence around then, which was 3 albums ago now. Their last record, Roadrunner, is I think their best, but also their most like polished, which was kind of never the appeal of them. Like, you were into them for how like all over the place and like,
yeah, the energy of it.
Yeah, and individually charismatic they were, and they come across as a much more focused unit on Roadrunner, which I think is good for the overall like quality of the music, but is not like it almost doesn't necessarily sound like a Brockhampton album, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So hearing Kevin just like give little odes at the end to the individuality of the different vocalists. Like, that kind of got me. Like, I haven't heard them in a long time now. Like, it's been over a year since Roadrunner dropped, and I haven't heard any of their voices since then. So I don't know. It's interesting. Just like it did make me tear up a little bit. And then well, the other thing is that we're talking so much about how much like he's spilling the drama on this album, and like he is, but also at the same time sometimes he's not. Like, it feels like he's being torn between spilling all the drama and like holding the listener at arm's length. Like, there's like Basement, which the song is really annoying, but it's kind of like he's just saying like, I don't know any of you, I don't have to tell you anything, like you aren't my family, you don't have to know anything. And then a lot of the things that he says on here, like the biggest revelation is that him and Amir, who's the guy that got kicked out of the band, like he has talked to him since he got kicked out, and apparently like one of the other members got mad at him. That's like the big drama. I don't give a fuck, really. But like that's the big revelation, and he doesn't dwell on it for too long, and most of the other like drama type stuff is like those self-indictments that I was talking about. This has the character of an album that's like presenting itself as a tell-all drama piece, but then like at key points pulling back and holding you at arm's length and saying, wait a second, that's not for you, which I also get in terms of the hypocrisy, like, oh, you bought into this expecting one thing, but you're not getting it. But also, like, you kind of have to pick one, buddy.
Yeah, overall, I think kind of just a weird project.
It is
in a lot of ways.
It is very odd. I definitely think it's their most, certainly not their best, but probably their most like thematically interesting. Like, I don't think
is it even fair to say it's their most thematically interesting? Like,
yes, because it is released under the Brockhampton name. It's part of the catalog. It's like saying fucking, to go back to the Beatles, Yellow Submarine isn't a Beatles album because George Martin made half of it. I mean, it still is. Yeah, I mean, it is Brockhampton's most thematically interesting album because they've never really had an overall thematic arch to any of their other albums. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I'll ever hear anything like this ever again. But like, that's for better or for worse, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a lot less conflicted on this than you because I don't feel anything about it.
The ways in which I like it are often very straightforward, and the ways in which I don't like it are very complicated.
Yeah, I feel none of that complication. I just hear it and I'm like, this sounds bad.
Sound like shit.
Yeah, literally. It's like the opposite of the post that's like, here's music is good, thank you music. I'm like, hear music is bad, fuck you, Brockhampton.
Fuck you, Brockhampton, you're alright. You're in the clear for this one.
Yeah, I hate you, Kevin.
God.
Alright, shall we move on?
Yeah.
Alright. Next up is Quadeca with I Didn't Mean to Haunt You. Could you culture me on where this guy came from?
Oh yeah, I can. Today we head back to a dark time on the internet, like 2017 YouTube. This is a YouTube rap album. Quadeca is a funny man YouTuber who I think started out doing like soccer content and then progressed into like more general like douchey influencer type beat stuff when he was like a teenager, and then kind of cleaned up, like as he became an adult, like kind of cleaned up and started pivoting to music, and he started doing music like shitty little diss tracks about other YouTubers. Like, he was like a drama rap beef YouTuber type guy.
Yeah.
And then like again like started becoming an adult and was like well, He is. I'm gonna say he's pretty funny now. I like him. I like his YouTube shit. He's pretty frequently a guest on Hive Mind, who I think are the funniest music YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah,
He
Hive
shows
Mind
up
are
on there
good.
a lot. Yeah, he shows
Okay.
up on there a lot. I'm in a Hive Mind video. I'm in one. I'm on
You
one
are?
of yeah, I'm in one of their like guessing your fans' favorite artists from their pictures videos. I'm in there.
Did you shock them?
No, they guessed me correctly, unfortunately. Yeah.
You got typecasted by God.
I did get typecasted by God.
Because I was curious because I was looking at now I don't recommend this to any of our listeners, but I was looking at his Rate Your Music page.
People are going ape shit about this.
But his rating ramp up is bonkers. Have you looked at it?
Yeah. It's
his
because
first album has a 1.3 and this
It's
one has
'cause
a
it's-
3.6.
It's because it's really bad.
Yeah, I
It's,
mean,
like, really
but even
bad.
then, it's like a very consistent increase. Like
Yeah.
his 2018 album has a 2.7, and then from there he starts to break into the threes. Like it's interesting.
The 2018 album is like The Climb or something, right? From Me to You. Oh no, sorry.
One
Wow,
Day.
I don't fucking know about any of these.
Yeah, One Day, which is Quadeca X Saint G, or you
Yeah,
can look
I'm-
it out of order. Both of those
I
are
am-
fine.
I am looking at these now, and I straight up did not know any of these existed. Wow.
Yeah.
Um.
So that was very interesting to me, and going into this also has some weird lore behind it. Do you know the whole thing about Album of the Year?
What?
There was a whole thing with this where on release, this album hit #1 of all time on albumoftheyear.com.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the BTS effect, right? Like, it's like people who are fans of Quadeca on YouTube, because he's got like a fucking lot of subscribers on YouTube. Like, he is up there. He's got like several mil, I think.
I don't know, but yeah, that like I think it makes it a little bit worse for an internet core, but like
he has
internet
almost 2 million subscribers.
Yeah, I think it makes it a little worse for like an album birthed off of the internet in music circles to be boosted like that.
Yeah.
Because people are like, how dare you fuck up our metrics?
Yeah.
So I was a little bit like, I guess, nervous, like weirdly going into this. And it is still odd to see it at number 16 for the year on Rate Your Music.
Yeah.
This album is very sonically consistent, not in a good way.
Yeah.
To me, the immediate thing that jumped out at me was Joji meets Bon Iver, and then someone put that through their Audacity and came out
really
with this.
It's funny that you say Joji, because he kind of just is Joji. Like, he
Yeah.
has the same career path.
Yeah.
Yeah. This thing is like, this sound is being done by a lot of artists right now, right? Like this kind of like bedroom pop, but kind of distorted and blown out, and like rap is also there, and
Yeah.
like it's very dreamy. Like, this is being done by a lot of artists right now. The first thing that comes to mind is like Breakins.
Yeah, sort of like very indebted to Frank Ocean
Yeah.
sort of stuff.
I think a really solid storytelling approach, like what he's going for on this album, definitely could hypothetically differentiate a version of this album that is better from the crowd. But his own personal voice, as well as his actual singing voice, and like his style here are like really underdeveloped. Like, it's just not
Very
good
anonymous.
enough. Yeah.
Like they feel his singing voice has so to kind of get into the weeds of it, I guess. I think that I like it in the back half. Like at Born Yesterday, that was when it starts to like have a shape to me.
Uh-huh.
Because on Born Yesterday, he sort of breaks through this like musical mush that he's in. And he has this kind of like screaming, like emotional moment.
Mm-hmm.
And the vocals get some acuity in that moment. And to me, I was like, it felt like that was the only time that the really fuzzy intro and outro was justified, because there was a moment where we lifted out of it and saw it from above, and then we went back down into it and almost felt comforting. But before that, I feel like I was lobotomized, you know, like nothing was hitting me. There was nothing for me to grab onto at all. Like it felt like a moldy banana, like fuzzy and mushy. There was like some good like synthy kind of grit to it after Born Yesterday.
Yeah.
But to me, the real we've talked before about artists who shoot themselves in the foot by having really good features.
Yeah.
And the Danny Brown one really just shows me how much I wish that
See,
there was punch on this album.
Yeah, okay, the wishing there was punch on this album is really, like, that is one of the hugest sticking points with this for me, because whenever there is a little bit of punch, it's like, oh my god, wait, you're here, stay here, please! Like,
Yeah.
Tell Me a Joke, which was, I think, the single from this, I think this is, at its core, a really good song, like, well-written song. Like, it's a good tune, but it's really, really just, like, got this ball and chain, like, it just shoots itself in the foot right out the gate, because the lyrics are so, like, corny and fucking fake deep.
Yeah, these lyrics
And-
are not strong.
And his delivery is way too, like, self-serious and focused on appearing meaningful to get away with saying shit like, I hate my ex-wife, or like, bone dry skeleton. Humorous, like a fucking like Kanye ass like pun bar like that. Like, there's one song where he's like, I think I hit my target weight, got exercised while I stood in place, like exorcised, like he's ghost. And it's like, these
That's
are
deep, dude.
Not even that, just like, these are funny, but like, and they're clearly written to be funny, but then you don't deliver them funny because you're worried that if you are funny on this album, it's not going to sound like you're taking yourself seriously.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, kind of ties back to Bitch I'm Lugubrious, because, like, dude, you're allowed to be funny. You're a comedy YouTuber. Like, clearly people like you for being funny.
Yeah.
Lil Ugly Mane is like a critically revered artist, and he broke through with an album where he says that he's going to turn somebody's face into gooey shit. Like,
yeah, and this album too, I think in that way really struggles with commitment. Because I'll get into my real gripe with this album is that the end of it really pissed me off.
Okay.
Because to me, ambient work in music, like tied into another genre, is a real commitment thing to me, where if you do not use it consistently throughout the album and then tack it onto a song, we will not have been acclimated to that pace throughout the album, and it's just gonna bore you. So, like, for the fact that this whole album was boring in a different way at the beginning, but still had pop tempos and pop pacing, and then at the end of the album, we get like Fantasy Worlds, which has that like unreasonably long intro with like 4 piano chords. Then there's that actually nice release in the middle that I like, and then at the end, again, 2 full minutes of ambient. And going with that into, again, the ending track, which is 8 minutes of nothing.
Oh my god, that fucking last track.
And I was like, what are we doing here? Because you cannot have, you can't have it both ways. You either have a, like, shoegazy sort of leaning pop album that's very lo-fi, or you have an ambient pop album. You cannot have both.
The song is called Cassini's Division, which kind of drives me fucking crazy, because, like, I can't even articulate why. So I googled Cassini's Division, and it's like, it's a gap in the rings of Saturn. It's like, if you look at the rings of Saturn, there's like a thin black bar in the middle of it where there's like nothing there. It's like a gap in the middle of the rings.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, because he's talking about like cutting to static all over the album. So I think the idea is like he's dead, he's a ghost, he's moved on, and now he's like in a gap in the static somewhere. But like, it just comes across as so fucking fake deep. Like, it's like Jaden Smith ass. That's my big gripe with this album, is that he is trying so fucking hard to like be taken seriously and sound like a real artist. Like, he needs to stop trying to prove himself as a like quote real musician, because this album feels, for the entire length of it, like a really intentional like proof of concept, and it fails because it's too focused on like making quote like bold artistic decisions, like ending the album with 4 minutes of static, or like slipping in and out of ambient, or like burying Danny Brown in the mix somewhere, and not making sure that these are like internally consistent or artistically appropriate. He has this awful habit of letting like the climax of each of different songs, like of Tell Me a Joke and Don't Mind Me especially, where like the climax will finally kick in and then it stays for like 10 seconds and then it goes away.
Yeah.
And he does this like 4 or 5 times. And it's like clearly the part of this song that you spent the most time and effort on, and the part of this that you like are really passionate about and wanted to land, is this climax. And then you whisk it away from us before we even are able to get into it, because you think like it has to be fleeting because that's like the thematics of the album or whatever. But like, fucking the song has to be good before you can add the thematics to it, you know? Like,
yeah. It's a non-starter in a very different way from the Brockhampton album, where the Brockhampton one, it's like there's ideas in these songs, but they're too short to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But these songs have very minimal ideas and are way too long in extrapolating on them.
And when they do have an idea, they don't want to do it for too long for fear that it'll like get pigeonholed or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's just this bothered me because I think that the reason why it pissed me off is because there are other albums that I can think of off the top of my head that have done this sound infinitely better and with more integrity.
I would rather listen to Joji. I really would.
Yeah, I would too, because at least Joji kind of was, I guess, somewhat ahead of the curve on this.
Yeah.
Like he's been doing sort of this ballad style stuff like during the Pink Guy era, like still. So it still feels like it's true to him, but this feels like he has intentionally diverted from what he was doing before because it was not getting received very well. And he was like, okay, well, let's go in a different, more introspective direction. But he doesn't mean it.
So I think he really does mean it, and that's kind of the problem, is that he means it so much that he's trying to force it. He has this concept, and I really do. I will say I didn't hate this album. I don't have like vitriolic hate for this album, and there's some songs that I think are pretty good, but like taken as a whole, he has this album concept that I think could be really good in better hands, like about like the guy dies and then is existing as a ghost like around his family. When he's on like lyrically and doing the ghost, like going really hard on the ghost thing, like you can kind of tell exactly where like his original idea and conception for this came from. It's like you read parts of How Settling was the one, that's the one with Danny Brown on it, that I was like, okay, yeah, this is the best song here, like by a long shot. Like you can tell that he went the hardest on the ghost angle here, and like he pulled in like every ounce of his like writing ability and passion and like songwriting acumen into this. Like this is like what he poured the most effort in, but like he may have done that because it's the song with Danny Brown on it, and he didn't want to come off as like getting shown up by Danny Brown. Like, you know, like where like it's just transparent, you know, haha, funny fucking ghost. But like it is transparent, like when he is doing things, like what the critical interpretation of it he wants it to be, you know?
Yeah, no, I definitely see that. And I think that when I say that he doesn't mean it, I don't mean that he doesn't like have intent with making this. I mean that I think that the way that he takes that intent is not where he would have wanted to go initially. Like, I feel like with this ghost direction, I could sooner see him taking those funny bars and making it into like more of a joke rap thing, like he might have done previously. But I do feel like this direction is sort of performative. And that he's like, this is what people want now. I'm going to make it and see if I can weasel my way into this area. Not in like a malicious way or like in a like dastardly mustache twirling kind of way. Like I just think that subconsciously or consciously, he was like, let's see if people will like this if I try this.
He's like, I want to be seen. He wants to be seen as a real musician and not as like a joke rap YouTuber, which like
Yeah.
fair. I definitely get that. Like, I definitely understand that impulse. Like that's really like genuine. But at this like that emotion is genuine. But at the same time, like I feel like you could get better reception genuinely by just like doing the thing that you are that like not like doing the thing that comes easily to you, but like I don't know, just like following your heart a little more earnestly when it comes to musical direction, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kind of a shame.
Yeah, it is kind of a shame because I feel like I think but listen to this, I kind of feel bad for him. Like I wanna root for him, but it ain't there yet. It's not.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't feel, like you said, I don't feel animosity towards this, but I definitely don't feel good about it. And
Yeah,
it
me
makes
neither.
me a little bit upset that it's getting so much love, just because I feel like this should be redirected towards albums that I feel like have more artistic like
I
dignity
will
to them.
say, for as much radio music attention as this is getting, I haven't actually seen that many people talking about it, which is like, because this is 3,000, almost 4,000 ratings.
Far too many, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
like that is more than the average album by a YouTube rapper gets. So like, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. It's definitely sitting in a weird spot in the culture right now.
Yeah,
I hope
the culture.
the culture. I hope for I guess my hope for the future with this guy is that he's gotten it out of his system with this, and he's like, okay, I've done the thing. I have now like divorced my image from being a quote quote YouTube rapper, and I can now do the things I want to do without that like ball and chain on me artistically. That's what I hope.
Yeah.
Because that's
Godspeed,
after
Quadeca.
Godspeed, Quadeca. Oh yeah, also Quadeca, if you're listening, the song Knots fucking sucks. Please never do that again. Just don't do that. It's so like
Oh my God.
it's like I'm going to be experimental now. Please don't do that. Just stop.
Experiment less. Stick to yourself, buddy.
He rhymes dust bite with dust mite, and then also later rhymes tongue tied with untied. Buddy, those are the same words. Those are the same words.
This is an awfully hot copy pot.
Let's get the fuck out of here. I can't
Yeah.
be a ghost anymore. I want to talk about something else.
Okay. The next album is going to be different. It's going to be Silk Money with I don't give a fuck about this rap shit. I'ma just drop until I don't feel like it anymore.
Professor, Dodec, I done been lost my mind for some time. I confess my profession, mental health neglected. Travel back to the year 555 like retrospective with a second weapon. Initializing transmission. The photon cannon managed to vanish. Niggas arrive with their mission. Bitch, pay attention, cause this shit costs too much. Fucked up, couldn't flip it. You niggas bought too much. Empire can suck my motherfucking dick for the ticket.
I don't give a fuck about this rap shit. I'ma just drop until I don't feel like it anymore.
Good title.
What a title.
But also this I it's kind of funny that we're doing it in this order because I did listen to this directly after I listened to Quadeca, and I was like, "Oh my god, clear production! Thank you so much."
You're a ping pong table.
Yeah, I do my listening for this podcast in bizarre ways.
Can I before we get into this, can I read the titles of his other albums?
Yes, go for it.
So his debut solo project, he used to be in Divine Council, which was like a underground rap group that got like a lot of like cosigns. Like people were like, hey, these guys are up next, and they actually got like an Andre 3000 feature on one of their things, and then they like broke up. Oops.
Damn.
So he's been solo since like 2018. So his albums are called I Hate My Life and I Really Wish People Would Stop Telling Me Not To.
Good title too.
The second one is Get the Fuck Off My Dick. There's not enough room for all you motherfuckers to be on it like this. There is Attack of the Future Shocked Flesh-Covered Meat Bags of the 85. And now I don't give a fuck about this rap shit. I'm gonna just drop until I don't feel like it anymore.
Yeah. And the actual titles on these songs are ridiculous as well.
Unhinged. Unfucking hinged.
You know it's gonna be at least an interesting album when you see little, like, emoticon faces in the song titles.
The first real song on this album is called I Ate 14 G's of Mushrooms, and boy, oh boy.
Yeah. This album, I think, to me also, this is the only album that I think I've ever listened to that I've checked my weekly genres in the bot, and, it said meme rap, and I was like, "Wow, I've
Oh,
changed."
ew, no! I
Yeah.
think meme rap might have given. I feel like that was more from Quadeca than this.
No, because this one, Quadeca, I looked and it's under, like, alternative or whatever. This is meme rap to the bot.
Quadeca put himself in art pop or whatever.
Yeah. But, so this I have not a lot to say about this album. I'll say that. I think that in general, when I'm like connected with it, the commentary on it is very entertaining. And there's some good like solid call outs like on Colonized. I'm gonna just shorten these song titles. On Colonized,
ectoplasmic jaro N-word fish.
Yeah. So I think that there's some good like call outs like of colonization on that song that's actually like pretty heady. And I do like, how do I pronounce this? SFC SSSS
I
dollar
don't
sign.
fucking know. And I was looking at the lyrics to that song trying to figure out what that stood for, and I got no clue.
Yeah, no fucking idea. But I think I read that song as sort of like a satire of the way that somebody like in the rap game might deal with ladies.
Yeah.
Like a very obviously shitty way to treat women kind of thing. Or like the fact that it opens with "I hold the record for kicking the most bitches out of my crib" is ridiculous.
The XD RAR line on that song just fucking killed me. It's so funny.
Yeah.
What does he say? I only have eyes for brown-skinned girls like Beyonce. Say I'm talking all shades, even the ones that had that XD face.
So good.
So fucking funny.
There's also a Sophie call out for hook lovers on One Glazed. Did you see that?
That song would just like I think breakbeats just make me go crazy. I think I'll just like anything if you slap a breakbeat.
Yeah, that song, there's a part where he says like, y'all want a hook, here you go. And I was like, she does. And then the last one that I commented on was I liked the beat on I'm gonna try and pronounce this. Hampton Emiliani.
I think that's
like
how
the beat.
he says it.
I like the beat on that.
Yeah.
But after that it kinda lost me. I think that sometimes the beats felt a little bit similar to ones earlier on the album. And the flow did not diversify enough to hold me for a full album.
Yeah, he's in one lane.
Especially with how like much he's saying. There's really no emphasis on any of it to lead me in any direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I think that he is a great lyricist, and I think that he's got a lot of interesting stuff to say. Like you're saying, there's a lot of really interesting, like social stuff on this album. I really like the stuff on 14 G's of Mushrooms, where he's like talking about what he should be rapping about, but like he doesn't want to lie. It's like there's still some things I want to say, but I just can't articulate. Probably should say a bar about fucking bitches with Insta fame, or how I'm driving a car with 3 different makes weaving interstates, but I ain't left the crib in about 4 years, still flipping dinner plates. I done spent that government money on Zaza and OCBs, ran up about 50 G's, and I did not get a PPP. It's just like, it's such like a stark, like, yeah, all your favorite rappers are fucking lying. Like it's just like,
yeah,
it's a really good. It's just like a really good commentary on that, and like the You Is Tasty, that was my favorite song. There's a lot of like fucking crazy commentary on that one. Like he's like screaming on this song for like half of it, and the beat is very like Billy Woods ass. Like it's like a sample of some like African instrumental, and it's barely edited. There's like no drums or anything. It's just straight the sample looped. And it has like this cannibalism, like the whole thing is like a cannibalism metaphor about like equating like white consumption of black art and black culture with like literally eating black people, and like how putting black people up on a pedestal like just like putting them up on a pedestal artistically contributes to like the humanity of the person up on the pedestal being degraded, and how then like black culture quote quote gets like manufactured by rich white people to sell back to black people, and it's like black people eating other black people. It's if I can read a thing again. The consumption of black flesh coincides with a cultural regurgitation of blackness, aroused by thine unconsensual screams as I'm boiled alive. How can I be so delicious to a nation that claims to hate my skin and existence? Another platinum record about killing N-words again. Another viral dance to songs about switches. Extension stepping and drillers scripted for kids to emulate like a trend. Aw, baby, I'm losing focus as I soak down in this culture. But how can it be a culture if you don't control it? Yeah, I think that song is like straight up genius, but I also think it's like the best use of his particular like furious, really fast, really angry all the time delivery style. And you're right that there's not much like variance in that like across the whole record. And if that's something you're looking for, like it's just you're not gonna get it. He does one thing.
Yeah. And I think that definitely in that sense, the commentary definitely hits, but if you're like me and rap needs to kind of hit a sweet spot of like switching up in a lot of ways, might not hit for you. I think that that's sort of what I've come to, is that I have a really difficult time with rap that like in any one area of its presentation like sits, you know?
Yeah.
So it didn't really hit for me there, but on a different level, I can definitely appreciate these bars. These are great bars.
He has a lot of topical focus on this, also in like not being interested in like quote quote making it. Which is, I don't know, I just thought that was interesting given how hard Divine Council was like coming up for a second there and the amount of critical respect he gets. He comes back to the idea of like, I don't care if this album pops off, I just have to get it out there, which is really interesting. And I think also like draws a point back to the Quadeca album, because like, I don't know, it's kind of the exact opposite like tack to making music. You know?
Yeah.
Like, this guy just like, he has thoughts, he has to get them out. He has to get them out in this very specific way that he's very good at. And once it's done, it's out there and he's not thinking about it anymore. Like, it's just like, it is in. Like, he is locked in, he's creating this thing, he puts it out, and then it's done. And then like, that's like exactly the opposite of what Quadeca is doing.
Yeah. So that was a very interesting, I guess, paradigm thing for me to look at going back to back.
I also just want to shout out that his one-liners on here are fucking amazing. He has got so many like like he just says such you leave a dish in my sink, I'm gonna leave my foot in your ass. It's so good. Rent 'em spoons is a good idea. Is like, I don't think the song's that good, but there's so many stupid one-liners on there that are incredible. He's like a Mike Wazowski line on there that's incredible. Yeah, it's just a good. I had a good time with this. It's not the best thing I've heard this year, but I had a very good time with it.
Yeah. If you tend to like a lot of Sophie's recommendations, then you'll probably enjoy this. All right.
Let's get out of here.
Next and final album.
Let's get out of here.
This is definitely not our second take. Our last and final album is going to be Weyes Blood with And in the Darkness, Hearts Aglow. So this one was the first one that I listened to in this batch, and I actually listened to it on my flight back to California from Savannah.
Heavenly.
And it was a very, very beautiful place to listen to it. I just put my head back on the seat and bathed in it. The tone on this album is really interesting, because I think that there's like a comfort in pessimism on this album. Like it has a look at negative parts of life, especially like the loneliness of lockdown. And it comes out of it with like this sort of pining for togetherness that like it betrays an appreciation for humanity as a whole.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a very interesting way to present it, especially coming off of Titanic Rising, which I think is a little bit more like blithe about it, you know?
It's really funny because going into this, obviously you're thinking about Titanic Rising, which sucks, but unfortunately, like that is like a year-defining album, like it's like it is a genre-defining album of this style for the last however many. I don't fucking remember when that thing came out. Like however many years ago that was. Like people still talk about that album. Like that is a huge like benchmark of music for that year, and like it's almost like not fair to this like her follow-up to have to like stand in its shadow, but it just so happens that she spends the entire time on Titanic Rising talking about like how there's a great cataclysm coming and like shit's gonna change, and then we fucking had a global pandemic, and in this album she gets to be like, I told you so.
I mean, to be fair, this is the second in a set of 3 albums, so they are meant to be sister albums.
No, for sure. And like topically, these 2 albums are like so like you can tell like they are very deeply linked. But like I just mean like reception wise and like
definitely
approaching this album wise, like it almost wouldn't be fair if the concepts weren't so linked. But yeah, this album's a lot about like recovery and like warning about other dangers that can crop up in the wake of a disaster, and then like it like kind of goes between direct and veiled, and she clearly is like kind of anxious about the future, but like she has hope that humanity will pull through love, which is like
very sweet.
I don't know. Good job.
Yeah,
Natalie.
it's very sweet, and it's nice to hear like an introspective but still outwardly positive, I guess, take on this. And I don't think that all of these songs like bathe in like glib optimism. Like there's a real sense of like it's like realism. It's
a very lived in optimism.
It's like pessimism that has given way to seeing that there is optimism in the world, and therefore it has kind of balanced out, you know what I mean?
I actually wrote cautious optimism is the name of the game with the emphasis on caution.
I think that on the note of like the actual track listing, so Natalie has often been criticized for having a style that gets a little bit tiring. Like most of what I hear people critique Titanic Rising for is that by the last like 3-4 songs they're kind of tie. But
well, you have to be more specific because tie could mean Titanic. You never know.
They're tired. Yes, they're tired. But I think that this album falls a little bit to that, but almost exclusively because I think that these first 4 tracks are the best run of 4 songs that she's had on an album. Like the harp flares on It's Not Just Me, It's Everybody are just like beautiful, and it's like this like perfect culmination.
That song is really good.
Of the sort of like rising like hum and synth in the background with the harps with her voice really kind of reconciles the ambient leanings from Titanic Rising that I thought were a little bit like scattered. And it's just like a really great opener because I'm like, okay, she's grown, you know?
Yeah, this is very much like a direct like development from that album, which is really interesting because it's definitely not as big sounding as that album. Like this, It's Not Just Me, It's Everybody really bridges the gap between Titanic Rising and the rest of this record for me, because her delivery on this, like, I mean, she sings the way she sings beautifully, but like she sings the way she sings. She's always going to be kind of like Baroque, huge. Like that's just what her voice is. And like the production on this is like so rich and so well done, yet it is still somehow more like restrained than how like just absolutely maximalist Titanic Rising could get. And the lyrics here are much more insular than that albums were. Like this song works as a really good, like, it's a great song just on its own too, but it also works as a really good like bridging of the gap, like conceptually and sonically, from Titanic Rising. And then Children of the Empire is an Elton John song. Fuck yes, fuck yes, fuck yes.
Yeah, I also felt like there was a lot of like classic kind of psych stuff on the chorus. The chorus reminded me a lot of Odyssey and Oracle by the Zombies.
Okay.
And I thought that it was just a really nice kind of pickup, I guess.
Yeah.
Like it's just a beautiful little song. And I think that a lot of what makes this album work really well for me is that I think that she expands her palette on individual songs a little bit more than she did on Titanic
Totally.
Rising. Like, you get
Mhm.
harpsichord, I believe, on this song. There's like a little bit of violin to close out the song. There's like some interesting like drum textures. She gets a little bit more daring with the compositions on these. And then I think that Grapevine shows a really good maturing of the lyrics. Like, it discusses a lot of the sort of similar romantic narratives, like that songs like Every Day and Andromeda talked about on Titanic Rising, but I think that a lot of the metaphors and lyrical moments on here are much more powerful and don't demand much attention, if that makes sense. Like, they all hold
Right, they're much more direct.
they hold equal power to each other, whereas songs in Every Day, like, individual lines really stick with me. Like, the one that I always get stuck on in Every Day is Doomed to Wander in the World's First Rodeo. Like,
Yeah.
that's just the one that hits. Versus Grapevine, I'm invested all the way through. So
Grapevine is the one with like emotional cowboy, right?
yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that is the one song on here that didn't really get going
Is that
for
one
me.
with Emotional Cowboy?
I think so, right? Because it's about. I think the metaphor is about like James Dean, and Grapevine is a movie of his, or like a street where one of his movies was filmed.
Yeah, that
And
is.
I don't know. Like, I thought it was fine sound wise. It didn't do much for me sound wise, and I really wasn't sure where she was going with the lyrics because like it's talking about technology, but it's also using like all these James Dean metaphors. And then she says emotional cowboy, which is like a phrase that will grab your attention, but then doesn't really elaborate on it. And I don't know. That's the one that didn't land for me. Everything else I really liked though.
Interesting.
God Turned Me Into a Flower is like
Ridiculous. It is
oh my
so
god.
fucking pretty.
This is the most like minimal thing she's ever done. It's like it's really just her voice and some synths.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And it's amazing. Her line where she says like it's good to be soft when they push you down
Yeah.
is like that is a bar.
Yeah.
That is a fucking bar.
Yeah.
I love that.
This one was the real, like, if it's not just me, it's everybody started to reconcile the ambient kind of mixtures on Titanic Rising.
Yeah.
This one took it to the next level for me.
Yeah, and you know how hard it is for me to get into stuff like that. So you know this one is really good.
Yeah, this is like, I think that this one really, like, because the oddball kind of fan favorite was Movies off of Titanic Rising, but
That song's so
it is a
good.
beautiful song. But I think that this one, she kind of like permutates it into something that's a little bit more like folkish, but it's still very solidly synth ambient. And
movies is all about like her vocal chords
yeah,
and like the progression of the chords. This song is all melody.
exactly. And the way that she allows it to like kind of dissolve into kind of sound collage stuff towards the end with the bird calls is just like so beautiful.
This is kind of like a boomer Luddite album also, but like in a fun way.
Yeah.
And I really like the Narcissus like metaphors being used here to like talk about social media obsession, because like I don't know, like your phone is a little black mirror, you know,
Yeah.
like you're fucking looking at yourself all day, and like when it turns into birds at the end, it's like Twitter. I don't know. I thought it was clever. I liked it.
Not to like bring up certified bad band now, Arcade Fire, but this feels like she's giving them a master class in how to discuss this kind of thing.
hey Stinky.
Yeah, did you know that you cannot be so heavy-handed? But for me, sadly, I think that after God Turned Me Into a Flower is when I start to feel the fat. I know that this is a hot take, but I think that Hearts Aglow is the worst track on the album.
That is a hot take. I don't think I like this one.
I think it has really clunky lyricism. And the general message, like, it hits. And the song itself is, I think, one of the most, like, direct tracks instrumentally.
Yeah.
Being, like, very straightforward chamber pop. But I think that it, like... It's a little bit tough for me because just that following God Turned Me Into a Flower is such an odd sequencing choice to me that it really takes me out of the album. And it kind of sucks because I feel like I wouldn't mind it anywhere else. as much, at least. I still think that the lyrics would bother me, but I wouldn't mind it as much. I just think that Twin Flame would have been such a better outro, or if like follow up to God Turn Me Into a Flower, that it
Mhm.
really bums me out that Hearts Aglow is between there instead of being swapped with Twin Flame.
Hearts Aglow is it is kind of her happiest song, which is really funny to say that about this song.
Yeah.
But it is sort of her happiest song, and I don't know. You know me, I'm sound over lyrics. I just like the guitar solo on the song. I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a nice little lovey-dovey song. It is definitely not the best song here by a long shot. And I even said that in my notes. Like, not def. This is like, if you're showing someone one song from this album, don't show them this. But I liked it well enough.
Yeah. The part where she says on verse 2, might be the moon or the cotton candy, or it might be a man who actually understands me. I'm like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that one. Like, it's just feels very immature for an album that has shown such like emotional maturity throughout it so far.
Look,
Uh,
I think she's earned being a little giddy about some dude.
I guess I don't know. I think that the I don't know. I just don't like it. But yeah, I think that my other hot take is I really like Twin Flame, and I've heard that Twin Flame is not a favorite for most
Wait,
people.
really?
Yeah.
Twin Flame's my favorite song on here.
Yeah.
Like, not really close either.
Yeah, no, I heard people were saying that like Twin Flame was a little whack, but I love it because I think that like the synth and the drum machine, I think that like this has I this has I think the energy that should have followed up God Turned Me Into a Flower, where we have the synth going into synth, but it also adds in more of the upbeat like structure, and then I think it comes down into
Mhm.
something else. I don't know. The sequencing on the back half of this album really bothers me and really takes me out of it. But this song goes hard. I love it.
It takes all these like 80s R&B tropes and just kind of like turns the knobs up emotionally and like really sentimentally. There's like some really funky like little sour notes on the chords
Yeah.
on this. Like, she goes places melodically that you aren't, like, she like takes a half step when you might expect a full step or something, and it's cool. Like, it just like takes some weird detours in the melody.
And we like some weird detours here at Hot on the
We
Presses.
sure do. We sure do. I just thought this one was really like replayable. Like, I just wanted to play it again when it was finished.
Yeah, me too. I like this one. Um, then from there, I have another issue.
I don't care about In Holy Flux at all.
I didn't really care about Unholy Flux either. I thought that it was like pretty, whatever. But I think that the worst is done is succumbing to the issue that I found that the end of Titanic Rising did, which is it's treading the same ground.
Mhm.
I think that if you cut that song and just let it go from Twin Flame to In Holy Flux to a given thing, we would have been great. But I think that the worst is done is a little bit, once again, clunky. And sonically is not
So-
really interesting to me.
I think it is like clearly trying to be the emotional core of the album. Like, it has this like, I really like the melody of this song, and I really like her performance on this song. Like, she's really restrained on this. Like, she's really clearly like holding herself back here.
Mhm.
And like the sentiment is like, it's like the emotional damage of coming out of the pandemic, but like any cataclysm is going to be more damaging in the long run than the event itself. And like, our recovery is leading us to like cling to people in unhealthy ways now that we have them back. And like, it also almost is like, she's like, I feel insane for knowing this isn't over while everyone else is pretending it's over,
Mhm.
which I work retail.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, I like the sentiment of this song, but it almost feels like saying the quiet part out loud, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's a well-written and well-performed song, but I agree with you that its spot in the album is maybe like, maybe you should have released this as like a single beforehand, and then it's not on the album.
Yeah. No, I agree with that for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I always have sort of the issue with Wise Blood's albums where when I love it, I really love it. And when I don't like it, it really kind of sours me on some of the other stuff because it puts some of the stuff that I did like in a different light. I don't know. I have some weird feelings on some of her songs. But I really do just wish that she would have gone a little bit more into the sort of, you know me, I love meandering. I wish she would have gone into a little bit more of the meandering ambient area on this album rather than kind of leaning back onto more of the pop folk stuff. Because I do feel like that stuff takes me out. But I think I'm in the minority there, so whatever.
Look, I think this album is a bit, because it definitely wants to be a sequel to Titanic Rising, but it also definitely wants to stand on its own. And I think it's kind of torn between those two impulses. And I think a lot of the times the medium that it finds between them is an okay place to be in. Like, I don't hate the sound of this album by any means. I think it's a very pretty album. I think it's very well performed. I think there's a very clear direction for it. It's just, I don't know if it necessarily has its own identity just yet. Like, maybe with her next album, if she does go more fully into that ambient lane, it will act as like a nice transitional point. But as of right now, taken on its own, I'm not really sure where it is. You know, like I can't place it.
Yeah.
And A Given Thing is, again, I think a good song, but I thought the lyrics were kind of unclear. It's like Love Everlasting will pull us through whatever we're going through, but like that's kind of vague. Like that's not what kind of love everlasting. Like just like I don't know. That can mean a lot of different things. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It has a lot of like interesting things going on that song, like sonically too. But it just feels, and I guess this is like my takeaway from this whole album. Like it is well performed, well written, well structured, but it feels a little uncertain. Like it is clearly it is complete. Like it is a product, but it feels like the first step. Like it's like you haven't really gone anywhere until you've moved both your feet, and she's only moved one, you know?
Yeah. I think that in that sense this does I'm tempted to say that if it wasn't part of a trilogy and I didn't know it was part of a trilogy, I would be hesitant to say that I like it as a full album. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it really does make sense to me as the middle portion because it feels a little bit like a tentative exploration into other things.
Yeah. No, I agree.
But I'm really hoping to hear her go into more of either going into more of those expanded sonic palettes, or going into more of the stripped back ambient stuff. I want her to commit because having this sort of...
It's hard to be in the middle.
Yeah, having this sort of like lilting fascination with either of them is difficult as a listener who wants one or the other, you know? Because I do love both styles and I'd be equally happy to hear either. But when I hear something as beautiful as God Turned Me Into a Flower, I just want more of that. You can't just throw me from there back into folk pop, you know?
Ambient pop is like, that's a fucking oxymoron. Like, I know some people make it work, but it is a weird spot to spend a whole album in my opinion. Like it is definitely an odd like compromise to strike. And I think if you're really going to go for it, you have to go for a very even split, which is not the case on this album.
Yeah. And it was...
Yeah, that's what you said about Quadeca too, so I'm just stealing your content here.
But it is sort of the same thing that I was talking about with that, just that I feel like I want people to be committing more to their bits. But
yeah,
you know, can't always have it.
This is the commit to the bit episode.
It is. To me, a lot of these songs feel like they are I don't know how to describe this, but some of these songs feel like title era Fiona Apple, and some of them feel like an overview on Phenomenal Nature by Cassandra Jenkins, And those two albums do not mesh very well in terms of, like, if you were to put them back to back on a playlist,
Cohesion.
like
Yeah.
interspersed, I'd be like, what's happening? So I think that those comparisons happening simultaneously while I was listening to this album is not a great comparison, but I do also love both those
Yeah.
albums, so I'm very conflicted.
Thanks for getting Criminal stuck in my head, by the way. Appreciate
It's a
that.
great,
You're gonna be singing
it's
that
a
in my
great
sleep
song.
tonight. It's a classic.
I'm thinking about Sullen Girl right now.
Banger. Fucking Shadowboxer.
It's so good.
Yeah.
All right. I actually have to pull up the singles list. I forgot to put it into
All right.
into my thingy. That is the end of our albums for this time. Unfortunately, nothing that either of us were like very jazzed about.
Yeah, we're coming up on the end of the year. It's slowing down.
Very middling episode, but you know.
I think I have like 4 things slated for next episode as well,
Yeah.
and that's fucking all I could find.
Yeah.
So yeah,
we'll see what happens.
and it's funny. We had TM. We were gonna do TM also, and I listened to it, and I was like, I don't have a single good thing to say about this.
We were also gonna fucking do Danny Brown.
Oh goddamn! Where is it?
If the man
Drop the
dropped,
album, bro.
he was like, "It's coming
Drop
at
the album,
midnight,
bro.
dog. It's coming at midnight." We were like, "Cool." It's not here. It is not here.
This is also the spot because that would remind me that the 100 Gex album still isn't out, and I've been waiting for it all year, but they actually fucking finally announced the release date yesterday, so I guess I can't complain about that. Did you actually, before we move on to singles, did you want to do your quick bit about Richard Dawson?
Oh, yes, I can. Yeah.
I didn't actually end up listening to it. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're good. I forgot. Okay. Before we go on to the singles, I did want to shout out The Ruby Chord by Richard Dawson, which is an album that we were gonna tackle because he's a very interesting artist, and I think, Sophie, you're also a fan of his album 2020, right?
I've never heard anything he's ever done.
Holy shit crap.
I am like actually so fucking afraid of this guy.
Well, I'm glad you didn't listen to this album now.
This is one of the most intimidating catalogs like I've ever been suggested to look at. Like this is dense music.
Yeah, he is an exceptionally interesting artist because he is really and truly doing his own thing at all times. This man has never once followed a trend. And this recent album is no different, and it is the end of a trilogy, like we were talking about with Weyes Blood. It's the end of his Time trilogy, which Peasant from 2017 is like medieval, and it sounds medieval. It sounds like a tavern. Great freak folk if you're into that. Then 2019 gave us 2020, which is the present, which is a very depressing album about like sort of capitalist dystopia and like growing up. It's kind of autobiographical as well for him. And then the Ruby Chord is this like sci-fi epic sort of D&D campaign type shit that like for context, it is an hour and 20 minutes long, 7 songs long, and the first track is 41 minutes long. It reads like a book. It is an exceptionally interesting piece of music, and I feel a need to shout this album out, not because I think that it's anything that I really want to break down, but because I think it would be very sad to pass over something that is such a daring like musical step. Like we are reverse gatekeepers, that's our whole thing, but this is the kind of album that I would feel very bad about boiling down in any way.
I looked at this album and I gatekept myself.
Yeah, it's one that really needs the space that it gives itself.
I made the Lisa Simpson face when I saw that the first track was 41 minutes. Have you seen the Defunct Land episode about like line cues?
I have not.
Okay, well, I balked at this.
Mm.
That's just for any of my Kevin Perjurer heads out there.
But yeah, it's it is really like music as an artistic statement. And if you are interested in any way in that sort of like very very heady, not unapproachable, but not like palatable for the masses kind of music, it is in a very true sense freak folk, in the sense that it's like very sparse, it's very post-rockish. If you listen to the Caroline album from earlier in the year, this is similar to when that album starts to break down.
It feels to me like he is... It's not like... I don't want to say like daring you to listen to it, but like, I don't know, to style and brand yourself in this way and to make music in this way definitely is going to, just by definition, it's almost like naming your band like the fuck shits or whatever. Like it just by doing that in and of itself, just by like presenting yourself in this way, you by definition relegate your music to those who are like trying to seek it out. And I don't know, I feel like that's an admirable quality in this day and age.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's a real... I think he's a very special artist, and I think that he's a very good kind of bastion for music that has this sort of very personal irreverence, in the sense that it really doesn't care whether or not you will like it or not. It's making a statement.
Yeah.
It's going to sit there. Because none of these albums are really cohesive in genre. Like, I will tell you, Peasant is like shambolic as fuck. It's very like antique.
That's the title of my biography, actually.
Shambolic as fuck. Yeah,
that rules.
It's incredibly... it's tavern music, and it's about being a peasant, and it feels like it. 2020 is like sort of like synthy post rock. Henke, his like in between album, which is a collab with
it's like a metal
with
album,
the
right?
band Circle. No, it's prog.
Oh yeah.
And then the Ruby Chord is like sparse, bare post rock, like freak folk, avant folk shit. None of these are cohesive, really. So he's not making music for an audience. He's making music for himself, and I would feel very sad to ignore it simply because it's not something that I can break down thematically.
It's fun because this kind of ties back into what we were talking to way at the beginning of the episode, where like this album is there on streaming.
Mhm.
Like it's on Spotify, it's on Bandcamp. You can, just as easily as you could go to a Drake album, you could navigate to this album and click play.
Mhm.
Like it is just there for you to digest and experience if you are willing to engage it on its own terms.
Yep.
And like that's all any music does these days, just sitting up on streaming services. But like something about the presentation of this really just like, I don't know, it really does just stand alone.
Yeah.
And that's why that I walked away. Like maybe you are stronger than me, dear listener.
Yeah. This is something that I will not even get into the story on, because I do feel like it's something that you should go into as if you were opening a book, you know?
Oh, this cover fucks, by the way.
Yeah, he has great covers.
It goes hard.
So if that sounds interesting, if you are compelled by the sort of like rambling like adulation that I've given it in this moment, I do recommend it, as honestly, even just to say you did, and to give yourself that moment of like, I have never heard anything like this in my life, you know?
Mhm.
Definitely just a cool thing to put in your brain. All right, and now we move on to the singles.
Yippee!
Yippee! So our definite first single, and not any that we skipped over, is
Nope.
gonna be Mike, Wiki, and the Alchemist with One More EP.
Fun times. I fucking loved Wiki's Cold Cuts, which is the album he just dropped with Subject 5. That is like this sprawling, it's like a fucking hour and a half of just him going on like all these different beats from this producer who just like cooked up random shit and threw it at him, and he just went. Some of the songs are like 8 minutes long. Like it's awesome. Like he can just rap forever. And this is like, it's so funny to hear like a 3-song project this like snappy and focused from him immediately after that like hour and a half long like vault clearing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very funny.
Yeah, I didn't feel much about this at all.
That's
Mostly
okay.
because this is, like I said, not my kind of hip hop. as we've established, I'm kind of a beat first hip hop listener. It's the only genre where I'm music first, lyric second. But the Alchemist beats have never engaged me at all.
So I go really back and forth on Alk because he's like so people suck his cock so hard. My worst rap take, like my worst recent rap take is I fucking hated Alfredo. I think it's Freddie Gibbs' worst project of the last few years, and I just found myself so bored by all the beats. And like Alk needs to, because I think Alk has a beat like fucking lie, but this guy makes like 12 beats a day and just like throws them in a folder somewhere.
Yeah.
I think he just like passes them out like cheap cigars. But when he really like sits down and like manufactures a product with somebody, his album can be like his productions can be incredible. I think the best recent example of that is obviously Haram by obviously, if I sound like a douchebag, but Haram by Armand Hammer, which is a fucking amazing album. And like I think like on that record he was like, okay, I'm gonna give them all my darkest and grungiest stuff, and that's like what fits Billy Woods. So works perfectly. And I think these are definitely not like specifically tailored here, because this isn't what Mike usually raps on at all. He's much more abstract than this most of the time. But I think Wiki has a really good ear for beats.
Yeah.
Like even when he doesn't like he raps on a lot of different stuff, and I think he is good at picking like instrumentals. So I like this a lot. And it's also nice to hear Mike in a more normal space.
Yeah. I just don't kind of go for this kind of beat generally, so it slipped me by a little bit, but the flows I thought were nice. When I was tuned into it, it was entertaining. So if you are the type of person who can grab onto a beat that really doesn't have a ton of changes to it, I guess, or like development, then this is a good one for you. You should definitely check it out.
Is this your first Wiki thing?
Yeah.
What do you think about him?
I mean, I don't know either of them, so I don't know who was who. So
okay.
I can't really say.
Mike is the guy who has more like he's just kind of talking a lot of the time.
Oh, and Wiki's the more off the wall guy.
Wiki is the wackier guy.
I liked him. He was cool. He was the one that really grabbed my attention.
So I on the slideshow, I said that he raps like he's from 1920s New York instead of 2020s New York, and I stand by that on this. He's so funny. He's like a fucking guy trying to sell you fruit at like the market in 1925 New York City. It's so funny. I love him. I want to be his friend.
All right, next up is Hotel Mira with Eventually.
Yeah, it's fine.
This was so weird to me because it felt like it was doing 4 different artists at once or something. Like it felt like a weird Frankenstein. And the two that I really put my fingers on was it reminded me of simultaneously the Fratellis and Jeff Rosenstock.
I always get a bit of the Decemberists from them, and I get a bit of Manchester Orchestra.
No, yeah, I hear that.
Like somewhere in there.
Yeah, it was very mid to me. This is one of those that feels sort of what's the reverse of anachronistic? Like it was made 10 years too late. This is the kind of thing that would be big on 2012 Tumblr. Like somebody would make an AMV to this and it would go big. But generally
I've liked a lot of these guys' stuff before. It's been a while since I tuned into an album from them, but I really liked their album Divorce, I think it's called. Divorce. I was really into that album like around when it came out. And I think it's mostly stood the test of time. I think they're really good like hook writers and song, like I think they are the
really test of time and good hook writers are like the equation for you.
No, be nice to me. I think it's mostly held up. And I think that I don't know, maybe they got another good one in the tank. Like, this is pretty catchy, but it's also not really much. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows?
Listen to fucking Star-Crossed Losers by the Fratellis instead.
I think you should listen to what Star Cruisers? What Fratelli's album is that?
Star-Crossed Losers.
Oh, my fucking headphones came undone. I thought you said Star Cruisers, and I was like, "What did they do? Did they do like a sci-fi?"
Yeah, their
album?
sci-fi styled album. That's like the only
I'm so
Fratelli song that
stupid.
I like, but it's a cute one.
It's really funny. Isn't that one from like one of their newer albums?
I don't know. It was from one of my friends who I met in peer assistance and leadership class that I got recommended for in high school.
Okay.
Put that on a playlist for me, and that was how I got into Dirty Computer by Janelle Monáe and also that singular
Goddamn.
song by the Fratellis.
Banger.
So shout out Selena. Thank you.
The Fratellis are really funny. I'm just gonna first name last name this poor bitch on your podcast, on your extremely popular podcast.
I haven't talked to her in like 4 years too.
The funny thing with the Fratellis is like I think they're one of the only bands of that era because they were like, you know, Chelsea Dagger, like that song was like selling iPods in 2006, and like they never really made an album that good again, but they never really fell off either. Like, just been kind of making decent albums for the last like 15 years.
Yeah.
Like, okay, guys, have fun. What's the song from that album that I really like? Stand Up Tragedy from the same album as Star-Crossed Losers. That's a pretty good song.
All right, next up is gonna be Honey.
I think it's Honey.
HNNY. Honey. With Being in Love. Recommend for people who like Home Shake.
This song pisses me off so much. I'm so sad about it.
What is this person supposed to sound like?
Honey made like the reason that I saw that this was like on my radar is because Honey used to make like this really weird, like nervous, uncomfortable dance music. There's a song I really love called Tears by them, and it's like the most like it's just like a house song with like a beat, and then what they've put on top of it is like the most like skin crawling, like it's just like some synth chords, but they're such like bad queasy chords that like it just makes my fucking skin crawl.
Just bad energy.
But like while I'm shaking my ass at the same time. I love that song. And I saw that they released something new, and I was like, whoa, I haven't seen them release anything new in a really long time. I listened to this, and this is just like lo-fi hip-hop beats to relax and study to.
Yeah, me
like,
saying listen to this if you like Home Shake is not a compliment. Let's get that straight. I don't love Home Shake.
I really like. I know who Home Shake
You
is.
almost said Homestuck. You almost said Homestuck.
Well, I have spoiled the ending of this sentence. Is that every time I hear Home Shake, I think someone's going to say Homestuck. I also just Googled Home Shake All because I was going to look up Home Shake on All Music, and I did get Home Shake allegations in my related. Which, like, why? Why does this happen every time?
Well, don't listen
These
to Home
soft
Shake
indie
then.
boys.
Please don't listen
These
to Home
soft
Shake.
indie boys.
Well, to be fair, the one guy that I knew who listened to Home Shake was textbook male manipulator, so you know.
Home Shake is male manipulator. Music a little bit.
It is.
It's Rex Orange County.
Dude, oh my god. Have I talked about my like gripe with Rex Orange County on this podcast?
Well, he makes bad music for one.
Well, aside from the bad music and aside from the
oh wait, yeah, I think you have.
Yeah,
actually.
the fucking appropriation of Orange County.
Oh my god, that bitch.
But it's
that rat bitch.
Literally, and now I wonder if anybody who I went to high school with who listened to him cares about human beings enough to stop listening to him. Anyway.
Moving on.
Lil Ugly Mane cannot escape him today with Split Ends, Redacted Fog, and Unassisted.
Split Ends is good. I can take or leave the other two.
Yeah, I would agree. Unassisted is very long.
Yeah, I think one of them, either Redacted Fog or Unassisted, is a cover. I forget which one.
Okay. Because I was getting to like the middle part of Unassisted, and I was like, okay, we're getting to the end. And I looked and I was like, we're not at the end. And it just kind of did not. It kind of plodded. I didn't like it very much.
Yeah, I really just put Redacted Fog and Unassisted on here because they're one single. I think the album cover for this, like I look at this and I just start laughing so hard. I don't know what it is. It's just like a fucking explosion and a shitty drawing of like a paper craft hippo. I don't know what. I'm
it
looking
is
at it
very
right now
silly.
and trying not to lose my shit. I don't know what this is. Just like a giant JPEG of an explosion and like some random shit put on top of it. It's so funny.
One thing Ugly Mane has a real talent for is bizarre covers.
Sometimes they are baffling.
The one
Yeah,
the one for Mr. Thug Isolation, either one of them that you'd
It's
find
so
is
gross.
so gross looking. Like the one that's on Bandcamp specifically, like with the baby on it, I'm like, please
it's so
stop. It's so
crusty.
gross.
The fucking dead rat on Oblivion Access.
Yeah. There's the dead rat on Oblivion Access, and then there's the whatever the fuck is happening on Volcanic Bird.
Everything is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy rules. I love him.
It's
Shout out Travis.
categorized under comedy on Apple Music.
What is?
Volcanic Bird Enemy.
No, that album's not funny at all. That's weird. That is very weird.
Somebody saw the cover and was like, yup.
He could have done that also. Like, I think the artist gets to pick the category it goes in.
That's very funny.
He's very like self-deprecating like that.
Yeah.
So
that would be funny.
Split Ends is a good song. That's my end. That's my be all end all.
Yeah, Split Ends is good. Next up is Violet Pony with Needle Pusher.
What'd you think?
I did not retain any of this.
Aw, sad.
I know that you like Violet Pony because I've seen
like Violet Pony a lot.
the Cutie Marks album on your charts.
That album is so good. I am so mad about how good that album is.
I know. It's the kind of album that you see on you show it to somebody, you're like, wait, listen, like please.
It literally is like, no, please, like just don't walk away.
Yeah.
Like I know, but I get it.
It's like
it's
the
awesome.
Marjorie W. Sinclair album with the cover.
Literally,
You're like, please, just give me a minute.
Please just ignore it. Just give it like 2 minutes. And I think it's so funny that you didn't like that. But then this I love Violet Pony. This sound is just so, I love their voice. Like, I think she's a she/her. I think her voice is so good. Like she does like 50 styles of music across Cutie Marks, and then this is more like, I would say, what I expect from her generally. Like, this is more in her lane. But like even within that lane, I think her voice is really well suited for this style of music, and the writing is just A1 just fucking great pop songwriting as always.
Recommend if you like.
Underscores is usually what I say. Like they're pretty similar.
I was gonna say My Little Pony, and then I was like, that's so disingenuous because like from what I know, I feel like it's.
I don't fucking care about My Little Pony.
From what I know, it's pretty divorced from that as far as musicality.
Yeah. It's like gently rock oriented hyperpop.
Yeah.
With really good hooks and just well structured songs generally.
The cover of this and like the whole like My Little Pony theming kind of reminded me of I looked at Will Toledo's like Wikipedia page recently, and I saw that he has producer credits on an album that I had never heard of in my life, and I looked and it had fursuits on the cover, and I thought, okay, and then I didn't listen to it.
Is that One Trait Danger?
No, that's like his side project.
No, I know. I was wondering if it was that.
No, Trait is like his own thing, but this is like a completely different band that he just happened to produce for, and they're just a furry album.
What is it? You saw this on Wikipedia or?
Yeah, it's like the band name is like I Have Too Much Spaghetti or something.
Holy shit.
I swear to God. I'm just gonna look up Will Toledo Spaghetti.
I looked up I Have Too Much Spaghetti, and I just got an article from liv.e.com about how eating too much pasta.
Oh my god, I was so close. It's I produced an album for a band called I've Made Too Much Pasta.
I've Made Too Much Pasta?
Yeah.
Holy shit, I have to listen to this.
Yeah, and the cover is literally just someone's fursuit real
this
close.
Rules! Oh my god! It's called Swear I Saw Your Mouth Move by I've Made Too Much Pasta. This is the best fucking album cover I've ever seen in my life.
I think that he produce that one, or was it the second one? Let's see what date this tweet is from. This tweet is from 2021, so it's How to Drive a Bus, which is the second one.
Okay. The first one has a better album cover. This one is just kind of a drawing.
Artist says this one is just kind of a drawing. Bad cover.
Well, sure. No, I mean it's like a drawing on a white background with like regular type. I don't know.
will say this does commit to the bit as far as like furry shit. Foxes will fix your car. Werewolf significant other. There's no cure for rabies. I miss you, space cat. This is commitment.
If you die at work, then you die in real life. Having a weird time in New England. I had a great time in the trash. Evil boys and evil girls. Maybe we can steal our neighbor's cable. Okay, we're making fun of this, but these also could just be car seat headrest song titles.
They could be. I'm almost not even making fun of it. I'm just like kind of amazed that this exists because like this is the kind of thing that I admire existing. I'm adding it to my library right now because I looked at it before and I thought, wow, I thought that this would have been bullied out of people, but I'm glad that it wasn't. Anyway, moving on to Kimbra with Replay.
This song is very fucking bad.
Yeah, this song's terrible. And also, what happened to you, Kimbra?
This is like so bad it's funny. Like what is going on here?
Yeah, the second it started I was like, oof. Okay.
This wouldn't have been good 10 years ago.
No.
Like it kind of sounds like every bad early like 2009 like pop song that was flirting with dubstep a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not very good.
And even then like I even just like looking at the cover. I was looking at the cover and I was like, how many times have I seen this cover? You know? Like black and white woman scandalously almost naked but like empowered. I'm like, I've seen this hundreds of times.
Selena Gomez did this better.
Fucking Ellie Goulding did it better.
Ellie Goulding, a legend, actually.
Yeah.
I can't even joke.
This is trying to be Ellie Goulding, and it's not. Alright. Yungmorpheus with Burnished Sums.
I am mildly disappointed in this, but not enough that I am, like, off the Yungmorpheus train. I think he's gonna hit it big in the underground, like, very soon. I think he's, like, so close to breaking out.
There was some highlights on this where I was really in. And then there were others where I was like, this is very, very middling for me. Let me look up the album again so I can see what I was liking.
I really think he needs like a producer like with him on a whole project because his album
Oh, he did a project with Sifu?
He did, yeah, and it is pretty good if really long.
Yeah.
It does not need to be that long. I'm also kind of hit or miss on Pink Sifu, so it wasn't like an entire W for me, but like I'm glad it exists.
Oh, there's a shorter version of it from 2 years ago.
What?
Yeah, that's 36 minutes long.
Oh, weird.
That's 14. Oh, Bag Talk Deluxe. So they made a deluxe version.
I thought it was just called that.
They made a deluxe version of their album Bag Talk from 2020.
Weird. I definitely think that's really strange. Cool. Good to know. I will check that out later. I thought it was just called Bag Talk Deluxe. Thumbing Through Foliage is his project from last year with a producer called Iwoni. And I think he is like a fucking star on that album. He is so good. And I think it's like having a consistent palette to work with that gives him that like really brings him out of his shell. He also had a great feature on Jazz Codes by Moormother.
Yeah.
He was on there and he like killed it. I loved his verse on that album. And like his bars are great on here. Like he does really well.
Yeah.
But it isn't anything I wouldn't expect from him.
Yeah, and I think the beats kind of let him down sometimes.
Agreed.
The one that I was really into was Head Above Water. Which is the one that has the star next to it, so it seems like most people are into that one.
Yes. That song has Goya Gambani on it, who's also a guy that I've had my eye on. He is like a UK rapper who is taking a lot of influence from like that New York scene that Mike and Earl Sweatshirt and like a fucking Maxo and like all the guys in that scene are coming from, like a really abstract wave. And he's like bringing that to the UK, which I think is also potentially interesting. And it's really cool to see those two crossing over. But yeah, overall, I think this is just kind of like a stopgap thing for him, and he'll come out with something better maybe next year or whatever.
Yeah.
Definitely, if you've never heard Yungmorpheus, though, this is 15 minutes. Why not?
Yeah.
Go for it.
All right, next up is Remi Wolf with Last Christmas and Winter Wonderland.
This Winter Wonderland cover is kind of bad.
Yeah, I want you to know, I lost Whamageddon for you. Are you?
I didn't even think about it. I don't think this counts. I think you're good.
Okay. I'm good?
Yes.
Oh,
I think
actually,
you're
the
good.
rules do say covers are okay.
Yeah,
Thank God.
I forgot about Whamageddon and I haven't lost yet, so
Okay.
let's go.
Those of you who don't know, look it up.
I will also say Whamageddon for me is like, it's almost like a countdown because
You work retail.
in my view at least. Well, no. Well, yes, I do. I'm not going to deny that, but everyone in my workplace like assuredly hates Christmas music.
Okay.
So, and when I worked at the art store, it wasn't on the Christmas playlist for some reason. But it's a countdown for me because I think Last Christmas is the greatest Christmas song ever recorded. Mariah Carey, Eat Your Heart Out. George Michael was fucking ahead of the game.
I do agree. But I also participate in Whamageddon to avoid getting burnt out on it.
Well, it's just like a countdown. It's like when I avoid it all month and then I finally hear it and it's like, oh, Georgie, take me home. Oh, the gays are here.
Oh my god, yeah. But when this came up, I was really debating. I was like, should I? But I thought the Last Christmas cover was charming, and I thought the Winter Wonderland one was weird and kind of off-putting.
The Winter Wonderland one was pretty bad. No, I thought her Last Christmas was very cute.
Yeah.
I think she did a very good job. I think it is a really good choice of song for her to cover. She actually kind of has a similar like vocal range to George Michael, which I hadn't really thought about, but she totally does. Yeah, she does it well.
All right, next up is Puzzle with Love is a Place to Hide. I loved this.
Fletcher, what are you doing, baby?
I like this.
Oh, wow, really? I didn't like this.
I thought it was cool.
I'm sad.
I thought this was neat, and I'm excited to see where he goes in the future.
As always.
Yeah, because I just have an investment in the Garden Boys. I think that they're cool, and I like them quite a bit in most things that they do. I also think that they are very pretty. It's off topic, but yeah.
They are very handsome. Very handsome lads.
When I think it is Wyatt sometimes will wear makeup for photo shoots and go very femme. And I'm like, "Oh, you're beautiful." But yeah.
I'm like physically restraining myself here because it's too easy and I'm not going to say
that
it.
I'm gay.
Yes.
Megan's
gay.
No. Like femme presenting men and still be straight. But yeah, I liked this quite a bit. I thought it was cool. I don't think it's like a fully formed song yet, but I think it's cool.
Yeah, it just felt like, especially with the album cover, it just kind of felt like a leftover from the last puzzle project.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Like, I don't care, but it just didn't do much for me.
All right, next is liv.e.
I think it's liv.e.
Okay, liv.e with wild animals.
This is so good. I was like really blown back by this.
I was kind of iffy on it.
She's another one that I've kind of had my eye on for a little while. She had a really nice feature on Earl's Sweatshirt's Feet of Clay, which is the project that has East on it. But her album that has like the Heat signature cover, I forget what it's called. It is called Couldn't Wait to Tell You. That's what it's called. Couldn't Wait to Tell You. ... I don't think it's amazing, but it has several really good songs on it, and I think she has a lot of potential. And this is kind of like totally different from anything on that, and I was really into it.
Yeah, I mean, if it sounds like your speed, it's probably your speed.
It's like a R&B. It's like kind of weird R&B, and she can sing, she can rap, and she doesn't rap on this, so I'm curious what this new project is going to sound like. She did announce it. It's called like Half Pearl Girl or something. I'm curious.
All right, next up is Tennis with One Night with the Valet.
Yeah, it's fine.
Boring.
Yeah. Sag.
Sag.
I'm always rooting for tennis, but this one is like a minute and a half long.
Yeah. Next up is Andy Shauf. Shauf? With Wasted on You.
Shauf. What do you think?
I was kind of middling on this, but I was also curious about what I feel like this might be like a weird gut check, but I felt like this was not what this guy normally makes, maybe.
It is. It's in the vein. It's in the vein.
Okay.
He is a folk artist who also plays clarinet.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's from like middle of nowhere, like really middle of nowhere, Canada. And so he has like this kind of funky accent that I think gives his songs a lot of character. And he picks really interesting song subjects and writes very pretty melodies. The thing I like about him is he's kind of never trying to be any more than he is, in like a nice way. You should check out his album The Party. I think you'd really like it. It's like a concept, like, or almost like rock opera type thing about like just one party in one room with like 15 people, like start to finish. That's it. And it's just like the different like social things that happen over the course of that party.
Interessante.
Yeah. I like this. I actually like this a lot. I didn't really care much for his last album, which was like a surprise release thing. And this is apparently the first track of another concept album about this character named Norm, who is like sounds really nice at first, but then like as it goes on, you realize he's more sinister. That's what I've heard.
Oh, I have The Party saved in my library.
Oh, nice.
I don't remember that though, so I'm going to delete it and re-add it so I remember to listen to it.
Yeah, get some Canadians in your system.
I've severely lacking Canadians.
Need your Canadian injection.
All right. So that is it for this week. Yeah. We invited Craig in at 7:48. So 3 hours about.
Yay! And then we were like figuring shit out. Oh my god, you can listen to this episode.
Yeah. Dude, the 6-hour one.
It'll come out. It will come out.
Will?
It's just like, it's such a beast. I mean, I'm working on it. I've gotten a good way through it.
Yeah, you keep chipping at that. I'll handle this one. Teamwork. Yay. All right. Well, that'll do us for this week. So, once again, I'm still Megan, and I am still available on SCAD Radio. You can check me out there. I'm the production director. See the things that I do on our YouTube channel. Listen to my radio show when we're back in Savannah, and yeah.
This is my friend Megan. She's the president. I'm Sophie. You can follow me on Twitter at I talk about music at SoapTunes. SoapTunes1, I think. Yeah, SoapTunes1.
While Twitter still exists.
Yes, you can follow me on Spotify. I think it's public. I don't know. Who cares? Look up Little Mac Main, which I'm not, but that's my Spotify name.
Your shameful past.
And if you find a soap with a princess bubblegum, congratulations. Oh, you know what? There will be a playlist in the description that's linked, and my Spotify will be on that. I didn't have to out myself like that.
Instead, now they know.
Yeah. Follow Hot on the Presses on Twitter at PressesCast. You can subscribe to SCAD Radio on YouTube. You can follow us on Spotify as well. We're also on SoundCloud.
Yep, CERN
declared if you're on that platform. We'll link our socials and shit in the description. And yeah, I think I'm about good here. It feels so nice to be back in the swing of things. Holy shit.
It does.
I've had so many words in my brain that I've not been able to just like spit at anybody.
I know. My brother is once again like me and has many thoughts on music. And now that he's living, he used to be just him and my mom in the house, so he had nobody to talk to about this shit. So as soon as I got home, he started just dumping on me. And I was like, I have a podcast for this. I have the luxury.
I have an outlet for this. What's your excuse?
I am the outlet.
Go get a podcast.
I'm sitting there shiny hunting at 3 a.m. and he's like, so what do you think about like the ethics of being a fan? And I'm like, please go away.
For those of you who are just joining us, which none of you are because this is the end of the podcast, Megan and I just went on a diatribe about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet for like 20 minutes. That's just our lives. That's just the way it is.
When we start a Patreon, we'll release that.
The amount of cut content in these is incredible. When you guys finally get the 6-hour episode that is not 6 hours anymore, there's a whole diatribe for like almost 45 minutes about Bakugo. And you make that's I have that isolated, and you'll get it at some
You have that grenade and you can drop it at any time.
Yeah, I can just unleash that on Twitter. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what I'll do with it?
Just a Dropbox link.
Yeah, just like an unmarked Dropbox link that everyone should click because it's not suspicious
Bakugo,
at all.
Bakugo.mp4.
Scan this QR code for me real quick.
This isn't an IP grabber.
We are rapidly coming up on the end of 2022.
Yes, we are.
I think we've probably got like one more episode of new releases, if that, and then we'll pivot into our year end discussion.
Yeah.
That's gonna be fun.
And Sophie will probably be posting a topster.
Yes. And Megan probably will
do
not.
not expect the same from me because I do not like ranking things. Yay! But I might do like an unranked collection of albums that I come back to a lot.
that might be something we could do on here. We could do like an extremely unranked top 10. Just like we picked 10 ones we liked. Have fun.
Yeah, just dropping like a little like a pillow sack full of albums that you come into the studio and you just dump them on a table and you say arrange them.
This has been Hot on the Presses. I'm Sophie.
And I'm Megan.
We are still hot.
And we are still fucking on the presses.
And we will never stop being on the presses. You thought you got rid of us.
I'm back, bitch.
Psych, bitch. All right. See y'all next time.
See y'all
Peace
next
out.
time. Bye-bye.